Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Sackdown. Today we have the Western GOAT with us, Caps, 14-time LEC champion, something like that now, because you won like 7 in the last 2 years, something like this. So 14-time like LEC champion, one of the best to ever do it. And somebody who has been a friend of some people on Last Nation. I saw you did the interview with Thorin recently, did an episode of Crackdown way back, so it's nice to check in with you and have you here, Caps. For people that know you, let's just go right into it. For people that know you, the one thing that people always talk about is your passion for the game. They're like, this guy is the most passionate. He like eats, sleeps, dreams about League, everything. This guy is obsessed with League. But from my perspective, when I see you as a player, I feel like there's going to be times where the passion can't carry you all the way. Like you have to have, the grit, the ability to work hard, to dig deep. And I think it's almost reductive in a way to talk about it as only passion. It's like, oh yeah, he's just super passionate, so he just likes the game and he can play like all the time, and that's what it is. So I wanted to ask you, is it actually just pure passion, or like how do you manage like having to work on things you don't want to work on while also being like passionate about the game and enjoying what you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, first, thank you for, for having me on the show. I think that for League, I mean, for sure, I love the game, and I think a lot of the time I get like a lot of motivation to try out things, and I also just find it fun, right? Which definitely helps. I also think as a person, I try to like set a lot of like rules, so to say, which kind of just like makes you maybe grind or makes you like try and innovate, because if there's no like alternative, I think as soon as you start like having other like plans or other things to do with your time and stuff like this, then automatically you will um, feel like doing that. But as if you like make like small rules and stuff like that, it becomes easier to just grind it out. If you don't leave yourself like options for failure, so to say, right? Then you just have to get through it. And for me, I think it's definitely a big mindset thing.
So when it comes to your rules, I know we were talking about this briefly before. You said one of your rules is like you don't play other games in the season. Like you'll make sure you're not playing other games because you said that you're the type of person that gets obsessed easily with games, and you don't want that to take away from your ability to play League of Legends at a high level. What are like other caps rules that you have to make sure that you're always on track?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like depending on the time, there might be like different rules, right? I think some of it is definitely like not playing other games. I think some of it can be as well a lot, like a lot of people have talked about the like the not using the phone, right? Which I've done, especially in the past. I will say it's gotten a lot harder to like not use a phone nowadays. I think after COVID, when you needed the COVID pass everywhere, it was a bit annoying, um, and now as well, like with a lot of food orders and stuff, it can be more difficult than it was in the past. But for example, like when we went to China, like a good thing for me was I just didn't bring my phone, right? So it's like I don't really need like the what's it called, like the dedication, or I don't need to like have a lot of self-discipline to not use my phone, because I just don't have it. And whenever I can take like the cheap way out like that, I just do it. Whenever I can just kind of remove any distractions and obstacles, I will just do that. And then it will definitely be a bit uncomfortable at times, so it will be like a bit awkward. You can get yourself in some weird spots, and I definitely have been. But you take the bad with the good.
So Yamato, I hear him say that he didn't bring his phone to China. How hard as a coach would this be to implement within your team? If you said, "Hey guys, you just can't bring your phones to Worlds," how would this
I
been?
think to convince players of these rules, like sometimes it's a war to even convince players not to use Twitter, because I think like all most players that you work with are so fueled by their self-induced ADHD, so to speak. You're on the PC, you're grinding out, you're really, just constantly like stimulating yourself. It's like in between queue times, you have to do something, and I feel like most players, they lose the ability and like the actual, I guess, the ability to do nothing. Like to ask players to do nothing is one of the most challenging things for sure. And I think it also represents itself in the game too. It's like sometimes players just get bored and do some dumb shit because nothing is going on. But to follow this up, I'm really curious, Caps, because the way you have framed, it's like you seem to be very obsessive in the way you approach League, and you have been aware of how your personality functions in terms of just like sinking your teeth into anything really, and you like create this distance. I'm curious, are we lucky that it happens to be League of Legends that you have like put so much effort and time into? Was there games along the way, like as you grew up, that could have been like competitive games that could have maybe stolen caps away from Western League of Legends?
Um, Probably not. I think that I've always been kind of like, as you said, like I like to really go quite extreme, and I've always played like not that many different games. Like I was playing a lot of like Warcraft 3 before League, which
Taste.
didn't really have like a what is it called, like I mean, it has a competitive scene, but I never really liked the game itself. I like more like the custom games, right? So it was
Okay.
more like a lot of different games, and I did never really consider myself going pro in that. To be fair, I started League when I was like 10, so I didn't really
Wow.
have like many games before that. And I think when I became like 11, 12, I started becoming like, okay, I just basically only played League. Sure, I would try out some different games with my friends and stuff like that, and sometimes my friends joined other games, but I was kind of just like, I really enjoyed League, and especially when I started climbing a lot, like I think late season 3, I started getting higher elo, and then I started playing more solo queue, so I stopped playing with my friends, but more just actually on my own, which kind of like made it from something I do mostly with my friends, as like a ranked 5s or just like 5-man queue, to just all the time playing solo queue. So that was never really like a different option, I think, at least for video games.
Was there, like, in terms of what your vision was for League, was it the competitive aspect that was interesting to you, or um, was it the game itself? You wanted to be the best at the game, or was there someone that you kind of looked up to in terms of, ooh, this is what I can become, this is who I can beat, and who I can look up to?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think I just started out just playing the game because it was fun. Like my brother downloaded it on my PC, and then suddenly everyone in my school was playing it, and everyone just enjoyed playing it. But I was also playing it quite casual. I think even around season 3, I ended up quitting for like a month or two because like League started becoming like less cool, in school, so to say. But then during the summer break, I started picking it up, and I started actually watching Worlds. And when I saw Faker win Worlds, I think that was like my first experience with pro play. I've never really watched pro play in anything. I've never really been a big like soccer. Like I love playing soccer, but I never really watched soccer, if so to say, or like football, I guess. But basically, the yeah, watching Faker win the trophy, I was like, okay, I want to be Faker. I want to do that. And since then, I've just been yeah in love with the dream of becoming the best, and I'm trying my best to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that watching Faker win the way he did was like so inspiring to everyone because like I remember even being a pro player at the time. Well, technically I was banned, but I was going to be a pro player the next year. I remember watching his games and just like the mechanical level of it, like the amount of finesse he had. It feels like it's almost impossible to convey that to League Watcher now because everyone is like pretty good mechanically. Like when you watch people play, sequences go in like a relatively like similar way at the highest level. But watching the way that Faker won that Worlds, it was like motivating. I was like, damn, like fuck, it makes me want to play mid lane. I wish I had like that level of just finesse. When you were talking about Warcraft 3 and playing custom games, did you play Dota? Was that like your first introduction to MOBAs, or did you start with League of Legends?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely playing Dota. I never really liked it, to be fair. I mean, I did play it quite a lot. Like, I think I probably knew, like, I would say at least like 80% of the champion's abilities. And I knew the items, like I had a pretty good understanding of the game and stuff like that. I also always played mid lane only, so it's always been mid lane for me. But I didn't really like it. It was definitely not my favorite map. My brother, of course, was pro as well in Dota, so that also made me want to play it a bit more. But at the same time, it just wasn't that fun, to be fair. I don't know. I felt like League was a lot more fun, at least for me.
Yeah. It's like was it the slower pace of Dota that made it not as fun?
I'm not actually sure. I think it was probably just also a lot of the levers. I think back then a lot of people just left in games, and
Yeah, true.
it was like a map where if someone left, then it would really like ruin the game. I think that was probably a big part of it. I think also it was probably just a bit too complex for me back then. I mean, obviously there's just like so many heroes and so much stuff to learn. And I remember I was very impressed with my brother because I was like, every champion's ability. which was like crazy for me. And yeah, like there was like so many different heroes, right? And I mean, I did think at the end I didn't know like most of them. I think I really enjoyed like custom variations of Dota. Like there was like a map where you had no cooldowns, like basically like Earth, but it was actually just zero cooldown, which I really liked. There was also a map where you picked like abilities from heroes and on like put it on like one hero. I really like that one as well.
Okay.
But yeah, it was. I mean, I was also like 9 or 8 at the time, right? So it was fun though.
So I remember Custom Hero Arena. That was the shit, man. I remember those maps.
Custom Hero Arena. What about Micro Wars? Did either of you ever play Micro Wars?
What we just had same army versus same army?
Same army.
Like
It
fight
was
in
just,
lane?
yeah, it was
I'm not
just
sure
same.
if I tried it.
Yeah, it was a Warcraft 3 map where they would just put you with like different unit combinations that would just get like more and more complex. So it's kind of like, you know, they pretty much take building out of the game of Warcraft. No, like, you know, macro, any of that. Just like, how do you micro your army versus somebody else? And that was like something that I thought was just so fun for me at the time, because I played a lot of Warcraft 3 myself, just playing Micro Wars. I just remember like that was just such a cool time to play games, because you would like find new games every day, but it would be like in the same game. You just go like search like the custom like leaderboard or the custom maps, custom games, and you would just play like random things. So that was a
full
golden era
random.
for me.
Yeah, I'm
That
full
was a
random.
golden era.
I never understood as well how they got away with like insane copyright infringement, kind of like where it's just like
Yeah.
just copy pasting other IPs and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
that it's just like you can play your favorite games in that game basically.
Yep.
So yeah, that was kind of wild.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember like you had fucking Linkin Park music playing in the background on some maps. You had Naruto maps, One Piece maps, those
Yep.
Dragon Ball maps. Everything
Dragon Ball
was
Z.
going on.
Dragon Ball Z.
It was
Those
super
maps.
crazy.
Those maps are insane. Caps, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the mid lane changes and how that impacts you, because and the one I'm specifically referring to is like the minion changes that happened in season 13. Because watching your career, watching you as a player for years, one thing that I always thought was like unique to you, if people were to ask me what is the most unique thing about Caps, I would say the fact that you would like early roam. You would just show up in a lane at like level 2, level 3, you'd push a wave, and then you'd just be like diving bot and then TP back mid. And with like the minion changes, it seems like it's harder to roam. Well, I mean, it just is harder to roam, objectively, because of the time where the waves crash. Is that something that you like noticed impacting your gameplay, or just making it like harder for you to really show off your style? Because I feel like that was something that it felt like a Caps nerf, you know, like it seemed kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that it's definitely hard to roam, especially early on. I think now they're like trying to go back a bit on the changes, right? But I think like the very early roams, I don't think I've done in a long time because of those changes, like since the change basically happened. But I think even before that, it had definitely been slowing down a bit with those kind of roams. I think they were quite strong when there was like the Talia meta, especially. I think a lot of them were on champions like that. Or I think at MSI I was doing it some of the similar roams with like a Nautilus or Gragas. So like there were some champions that it could be quite good on, and I always kind of enjoyed it because I mean it just felt nice, it felt fun, right? But I think that unless you're playing like again the Asol, or I mean they even reworked Asol, but unless you're really playing a champ like that and also with the old minions, it just doesn't feel worth it. And I just have to adapt. I think in a way I don't actually mind it, because I think it's like I love roaming, but I hate that enemy mid roam, so I hate that people roam on my lane as well. So it's like I lose some things there, but also my opponents lose some stuff. So I don't mind it.
Yeah. I assume it's also the surprise factor of you roaming. Like that's what people would always say is like, there's no way that Caps is gonna roam and miss this wave. This is like the 4th wave of the game. If he misses this and the roam doesn't work out, he's completely fucked. That's what people would say, and then like it would just work out. It just felt like it always worked out. But I wanted to
It's
talk
like
to you
the
a little bit.
Adam roam as well.
Yeah, the Adam roam as well. Yamato, you can tell us about the Adam roam. You were the one that coached it.
Oh.
You taught him everything about the Adam roam.
Honestly, it was weird because it's like Adam was just our wild card, you know? It's like it was his first split ever. So at some point it was like it's better to let him do what he wants to do than try to fight it. And just Adam wants to do this, so I guess we're doing this. Like he would not say things. Sometimes he would just appear. I remember one specific game. We were playing against How Alive at Worlds, since it's like the Chovy How Alive, right? With just Chovy and 4 wards, and he's playing Set against Cannon, and he's pushing in the wave, and then he's pushing against the Cannon somehow, and then he just flashes on Chovy mid, and then he goes around the turret to cancel him again, and it didn't have any impact on his lane at all because the other guy was like, "Oh, I don't know how to punish this," and sometimes that's the beauty of it. You know, it's the same like when we played against you guys in that best of 5. It's like he wanted to play Darius. Like at that point in time, I had many ideas of things that could be better, but in that moment of time, it's just like fly, Adam, fly, spread your wings. It's like if I try to cut off your wings now, you're just gonna be like a bird that. You're just going to be like one of those birds from New Zealand, you know, those kiwis that don't fly around. So sometimes with players like that, you just have to let them loose, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I remember, you know, just to follow this up, I'm curious in regards to your own personal development, Caps, because I remember when you came onto the scene, right? It was like 2017, I remember like the big moment was it's like how you killed Perkz when you're playing Rise against the Syndra. You just outplayed the shit out of him. Like you really destroyed him, annihilated him. And over time, I remember it's like 2018 playing against you guys. We had a very specific strategy against you guys, and that was to always camp you. This is one of Gilius's favorite stories to tell is how we picked Zach. We just picked Zach out of nowhere against you guys.
Yeah.
It was the counter to Caps. I wanted to talk to you about that year in particular in terms of how you needed to change up your play and how you became more of a central point for the team as the meta kind of progressed, because obviously Reckless needs to be subbed out and the whole meta changed. How was 2018 for your individual development? Because 2017 was just mechanics, and 2018, I feel like this changed you a lot as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think I came into the scene, right, not really knowing any like that much about pro play, because again, I didn't really watch that much pro play, and I had played on some teams before, but we never really reached like that level of the LEC at least. And I think that mechanically I was very good, but I would always play extremely aggressive, so I was very gankable, and I was also very coin flippy in a way, because if even like regardless of game state, I would just go for the most aggressive play. So even if we're super winning, I would still play like if someone was want to like limit test with me, I was down to take it, right? And I think season 8 I started becoming a lot more conscious about like the game state in general. Like if we're winning really hard, I'm not gonna go for a 50-50 like skill test against someone, even though I think I might win it or like I feel confident about it. I will just be like, it's on you to to make me lose this game. And at the same time, if we were losing the game or if it was a bit tougher, I will still go for the same like kind of I guess like risky fights. And also I just became a lot smarter about the game. Like later in the game, I played with Soas, I played with Reckless, and these guys were like very smart, especially for that time. And I just got to soak so much information and knowledge from them that I became way better at just playing the map in the later parts of the game. And I think nowadays that's like I guess one of my bigger skills. And obviously I think a lot of that came from playing with them. Of course, joining G2 afterwards and playing with like Perkz as well also helped that. So I was very lucky to have played with the people I played with and gotten to learn for them for sure.
Was that something that they needed to kind of beat into you in a way where it's like please, like you're so far ahead, just like don't play aggressive here? Like was that something that Reckless and Soas really had to like, you know, pull the reins back on, or you know, were you just finding this out naturally yourself?
Yeah, I mean for sure. I think like our first split was the most extreme, maybe, where we had like Soas, Amazing, and Reckless, and we would have like these like 1-hour reviews where our opponents would play a solo queue game in between scrims, because there was just so much like discussions and a lot of people had very strong opinions and stuff like that. And back then, I think I definitely didn't understand everything they were telling me, right? I think I was not quite at the level. So, but I was also like, I'm not someone who will just follow what people say. Like I need to understand it, right? I'm not just gonna like follow something blindly. So I definitely had to have like they had to explain it to me in a way that I could understand before I will like follow it, so to say, right? Because and I mean in a way that can be slowing us down, and maybe we had the slow start as well, but it also makes it way easier like later on, right? Like then I actually understand it and I don't just do like I understand the logic behind it and not just the idea itself, right? And I'm happy they they helped me out. Maybe they have different sides of it. I'm not sure, but it was fun.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a gamer was stirring, because they were all dialed in wearing their brand new Turtle Beach gaming headsets. Turtle Beach's Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset is the cheat code for giving the best gift of the year. Stop sounding like they're talking underwater, and you get to be the holiday MVP. Crystal clear sound, maximum comfort, and the ability to hear every little detail in their game is a much better gift than socks and a mug. And with a long-lasting battery of 80 hours, you can be sure not to run out anytime soon. Whether you're treating yourself or looking for that perfect gift, now's the time to snag the headset that everyone's talking about. For a limited time only, our listeners get 10% off their entire order when they use the code TSD at the turtlebeach.com website. That's 10% off your order at turtlebeach.com with promo code TSD. When it comes to comfort, sound quality, and efficiency, Turtle Beach has got you covered. Get the ultimate immersive gaming experience with Turtle Beach today. For a limited time only, head to turtlebeach.com and use the code TSD for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your entire order at turtlebeach.com with promo code TSD. Don't delay and get the perfect gift now. Happy holidays from Turtle Beach.
I wanted to zoom in a little bit at that 2018 year because I was at the World Championship with Vitality back then, and I was speaking with Young Buck. I guess it has it's post the statute of limitation. There was a specific team because we had them in our group and we were discussing we were discussing the tournament in general, and the team was RNG. And Young Buck was telling me that when you guys scrimmed RNG, it was impossible. It was just something that there was just such a big mental block. You guys were trying to figure out different strategies about how to play against them. Is this something that you can share internally? Because Fnatic versus RNG was such a big storyline for such a long time until, of course, 2019, where they eventually beat them and got out of groups when Ming and Uzi just decided to pick Lulu into Hylissang Spike. But I'm curious from your side internally, RNG and the story of scrimming against RNG. What can you share about the preparation leading up to, of course, the finals in the end? And what were some of your concerns in that tournament leading up to the finals?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a bit of a mental block against RNG. They took us out the previous Worlds on MSI, so they definitely had already done some damage to us. And I think also just our scrims were very tough going into Worlds. Like we were actually not winning that many games, especially against RNG, especially against I think even EDG were taking a lot of games from us. I think we were very much struggling with the LPL teams. It felt like they were just very aggressive on just diving bot. It was like they really had that meta where you just dive bot level 3, and we had a hard time responding to it. I think actually throughout the tournament we started doing a little bit better. Like we scrimmed IG after I guess maybe after quarters or something like this, and we were doing significantly better than we were against RNG at the start of the boot camp. And also for the Korean teams, we were also doing a lot better against them than the Chinese teams overall. But it felt very hard to survive the early game against any of the LPL teams. And I think also us as a team, Fnatic back then was very late game focused. We were always a bit slow start. I think most of our games we would fall behind somewhat. And even our series, our series against EDG was quite tough. A lot of the games we fell very far behind, but we managed to come back. And RNG was just a team that's, I mean, they were also strong early, but they were also just better than us later in the game. So it felt like we both of us played this very AD carry focused team, have the super hyper carry peel for him very well. And RNG was very comfortable in that kind of game because if both teams were just peeling for the AD carry, then Uzi was very, very good at the time. So yeah, it was a hard matchup for us.
As a follow up, because the finals obviously is you've had this question asked you many times. It's you played that finals and it ended in a terrible way, right? I something that I perceived from outside was there seemed to be like a clear pivot in terms of the strategy, because it seemed like after game one you moved into more scaling picks, more isolated picks. Was that something done intentionally? Because obviously it's like IG, I think the main thing that stood out about how they played was just Ning and Rookie in terms of how they cooperated and really tried to shut you down. I think no other team could do that in the tournament. Was that something that was perceived or actively done? It's like you guys ran into Jin, Sion scenario, but then game 2 and 3, I think what I noticed was just Victor Azir, which was such a big pivot, in my opinion, from what you showed earlier in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the problem in a bit game 1, and we did the similar draft against them early on in the tiebreaker, where we basically did this like double AD top mid. Like I think we did Urgot Aatrox, and then in the final we ended up doing something like Urgot Irelia, I believe. And we did it quite early in the draft. And at the same time, we were also playing AD jungle, and we were basically playing a full AD comp. And we in the tiebreaker we ended up with like a Tristana 4-5, I think. So that kind of like gave us a bit more consistent damage later in the game. And the Shy also picked Fiora, which was a big change because she actually dies. But in the final, he dropped the ego, he just locked in Cyan. We were full AD. They banned Tristana out, so they had kind of figured our champs pools out a bit. Suddenly we have a Jin against the Cyan, and we're also full AD. So it felt like if we don't stomp the game, we kind of just lose. But at the same time, it also really didn't feel like we had the matchups or lanes to actually stomp IG. And at the same time, also just our matchup against IG, we were like, we came into the matchup thinking like, oh, they're a very, very good early game team. We need to like somehow play defensive in a way that we can stop them from snowballing. But we found ourselves in a game where we have to snowball, and that was just not our strength. So I think game 1 was a bit of a disaster for us, and then going into game 2, we definitely wanted to add a bit of scaling to the game, but also still like contest a lot of the strong picks. And maybe we didn't find the best answer, but I think it was they were a very strong team, and I think it was tough for us to find the right draft against them.
Something that is interesting is always like some of the matchups or some matchups that we just kind of get robbed of. Rookie is the player that like we didn't get to see a lot of Rookie versus Faker, and we got to see you play against Rookie, of course, in group stages, and then the finals, and then of course the group stages of MSI. Looking back at that MSI win, not being able to kind of defeat IG to win the trophy, is that something that you look back to? Do you hold any grudges towards the IG team and Rookie in particular? Do you have these storylines in your mind about the players that you face up against over and over again?
I mean, definitely. I think at the time I was quite disappointed. I think I even said after we won. I was happy we won, but I was disappointed we didn't get to play IG because it felt like a big letdown if they were just beating us. And then we finally win, but we didn't actually beat them. And I think definitely
you beat the better team, Team Liquid. So
yeah, we were still happy. We were still happy for sure, right? And I think like at the end of the day, TLS just like they did beat them, right? So it's like it's not like we were feeling sad or anything, but it would have felt better, and it would have felt like we finished like the journey if we beat IG. So definitely I felt both against IG and Rookie that I would wanted to get some revenge on them and like beat them. But I think since then I've just like we've lost so many worlds and I've lost so many teams that it feels like the amount of teams that have to get revenge on now, I think it's been overwhelming. And I think this year, and I think nowadays, it's just I will just focus on ourselves, and especially T1 and BLG come to mind of someone who have just been hitting us over and over these last tournaments. And JDG was also there before, so I don't know. I think we will. I will do whatever I can to beat everyone, and I think a specific revenge match short would feel good. But I'm pretty sure whichever LPL or LCK team they will send to Worlds, one of them have beaten me at some point. Like,
shit.
And they're gonna be good as fuck. These teams are just they're so demonic. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that 2018 season because that was a really weird season, right? Like you guys started off, you had the stuff that was actually leaked in the sack, the Soaz hand injury, which was like him hitting the table, breaking his hand. Whipple became your top laner for a bit. Then there was the period in summer where Reckless was not playing with the team because the meta changed. They removed like 80 carry. They really like over nerfed 80 carries. So then he went back to like Sweden, and Whipple's playing 80 carry with Hylissang, and he's playing like Swain and Victor and all this stuff. Was this like Was this a really strange season for you, or did you like feel like it was all gonna end up like working out? Because I assume that when you're in the thick of it must have been like just very hectic.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely felt very weird. But to be fair, I think season 7 also felt very weird. And in a way, I think almost every year does in esports. Like, there's just so much like stuff happening, and I think just the lives we live are very like, yeah, very weird as well compared to like the life I had before I moved to Berlin. So it was definitely, as you said, hectic. It was definitely stressful at times, and there were definitely times where it felt like, is this gonna work out, right? But I think I always had the belief that we can make it work. I think you also just build it throughout the time together that like, okay,
Hmm.
it doesn't feel like we should win, or like it doesn't feel like, I don't know, if it's not like the movie, you know, where everyone is like, everything is going perfect and you're like working your way forward,
Yeah.
and you get the the win in the end. Sometimes it's ugly, sometimes it doesn't feel great, but you just have to get it done. And for most of the year we actually managed to do that. Obviously we fell short in the end, but it yeah, it was a roller coaster.
When you were playing the tournament itself, when you were playing 2018 Worlds, did you guys have a high level of confidence because of the group stage, or like did you feel like, oh man, like I really hope we don't draw this team, or like hopefully we don't draw RNG, hopefully we don't draw IG like early on in the tournament? How did you feel about how the tournament was progressing once you were playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've definitely felt quite comfortable. I think, like as I mentioned again, like our scrims and our stage were two very different things. So I think our stage confidence was always high. I think if there was one team that I was like definitely worried about, it was the RNG, right? As you mentioned, I think they were the only team where I mean, I still feel confident against them, because even that last MSI, I think we had 3 games against them where maybe 2 of the games we were like 6k gold lead ahead, or 6k gold ahead, and I felt like, okay, if we play better, we'll close it out. But we failed to, right? And we got 3-0. So they were definitely like a scary team to face. But I felt like anyone else just felt like beatable. I didn't really have a great idea of IG going into Worlds. We didn't, I think, scrim them that much because they were in our group. And of course, RNG being super scary makes a lot of sense. I think EDG was a bit scary too,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think a lot of the Korean teams, like they just felt like worse, I guess, than the LVL teams. And of course, like the other EU, the other NA teams, if there was any wildcard, like we would also feel comfortable against them.
Unless they're not, as long as they're not from Vietnam, right? Because those
I mean,
teams like
back then we didn't know, right? Back then we didn't know.
okay, all right, true,
They
fair.
taught us after. But
Okay, true. No, fair. And just for context for listeners, the reason why we're talking so much about RNG is like RNG was the massive favorite coming into Worlds. Like they had one MSI, they were just like dominant in China. People just thought that they were the team to beat. When it came to just the whole season, they were kind of like the Gen G of this year, the JDG of this year, up until they had that quarterfinals loss. That's the context there. When it comes to like vibes between the teams, was there a big change between like playing with Fnatic and like the vibe of the team, the feeling? Because like we said, it was really hectic compared to when you joined G2 in 2019. Because when we look at G2 2019, it does kind of seem like the movie. It seems like everything just clicked. You guys start the season, you're just beating the shit out of everyone. You win MSI, you win both splits. Like, was this like a much more cohesive team environment just because of the fact that you guys were winning so much?
I think, yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree. I think it was like a full 180, to be honest. Like everything felt just completely different on G2. Some things for better, some things for worse, and some things are just like you can argue it, right? I think the way the Fnatic was set up was just, it was very structured, very professional. Everyone came in, we did our job, so to say, right? And I think that it was also like very, like if we were losing, everyone would be very sad, everyone would be frustrated, everyone would be embarrassed about bad performances. They would be very upset, right? And try their best to make it better. I think on G2 it was like the complete opposite, where if someone would die, they would just like laugh about it, kind of. Like they would be like, oh, I just ended, like, oh, like I don't know, some joke or something like that, right? Where it was like, that was like very foreign to me when I joined. Like initially it was a very big, like, I guess, culture shift, because it felt like yeah, everything I had learned on Fnatic was just like, oh, if you die, you just have to be sad. You have to be like embarrassed about it again, right? You have to make it better. And I think on G2 as well, it was for sure like a lot less unprofessional in that sense. Like I think a lot of people, we had way more like freedom as a team, and we had we also had like, I mean, there's a lot of memes about like the some of the drafts, or like have been about the dreams and stuff like that, or like we also just did a lot of stuff as a team. I think more so than on Fnatic. Like as soon as I joined, we were doing a lot of like charades. I remember one of the first nights I was there at the house, we did like charades until 6 a.m. And it was
Up
a
to
lot of
6
like
a.m.
different.
Crazy.
That's a
I
lot
mean,
of charades, man. Like,
it
I don't
was
know
a lot
if I
of
can take that
charades.
much.
Yeah.
I can't take that much charades, man. Like charades isn't charades a game you play for like an hour or 2 hours max? Like, can you really do
Wait,
charades until 6 a.m.?
charades is the one where you have a word, right? And then you have to do like you have
Yeah,
to act.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So basically, we did that, and then we did the one where you have to write it, like you have to like like draw it, I guess, draw
Oh,
the word.
okay, yeah.
No, but it was actually very fun. I think the thing is like we had some very I mean, I don't know, crazy words, some creative words. I think a lot of like esports stuff as well. And I don't know, it was just so much fun, and we were just having fun, right, together. It was definitely like a long time, but sometimes you're just doing this and time just like flies as well. So I don't know, it was just a lot of fun. And then at the start, of course, I was very worried because I was like, also like, okay, I mean, we're having a lot of fun and it's very nice, but are we also actually going to be good? Because I of course also want to win, right?
Yeah.
And I think finding the balance has always been a little bit hard. Where it's like you obviously, of course, you need to like. I think there's a lot of positivity in taking a positive attitude to like things going wrong. You know, you can still laugh about it, move on, you know, fast. But also, it cannot be like it can. There's a limit, right? It cannot. It sometimes on G2, I think for sure became too troll, and I think we were quite good at taking a step back, and I think Perkz also helped with that, where it was like, okay, we went too far, you know, we went too far down the rabbit hole. These troll picks, like we are not like doing things in, like seriously enough and stuff like that. But yeah, I think finding the balance was important, and I mean G2 was one side of the spectrum, Fnatic the other one, and I think now we're trying with the new G2, I guess, is trying to find like a middle ground.
I wanted to know because it's like you were in the finals. It's like I think you moving to G2 was a big shock, right? I think it was probably like the biggest move in EU history, right? It's like Caps moving to G2 and Perkz going AD. I think everybody at this point knows that Perkz is the best GM of all time. He is the best salesman, the best communicator, the best team builder of all time. I'm curious what you can share about how he pitched this idea to you. I know that you wanted to play with Mickey and there was a bond there, right? But how did he pitch this idea to you? Was it something you sold on right away because of what you mentioned now in the chaos of Fnatic? Or tell me how it went down, the conversations with Perkz.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think I had talked with Perkz quite a bit, like especially after season 7 Worlds, like when they got knocked out in groups, he kind of came to our room and we were talking a lot after season 7 Worlds, like not like about road swap or anything, but about like the game itself. And I felt like, you know, you talk with someone and sometimes you feel like you really understand each other. And I felt like we definitely had like a very similar view on the game. And I think since then we've been playing a lot of in-house and off seasons throughout every off season. And I just felt like he was very smart about the game, and I also think he saw the game the same way. I think also I don't know how much of it is like being mid laners. You just see the game very similar because in a way I talk less with mid laners than I talk with other roles, just of how like esports I guess works because you play with a team with other people, right? But I definitely shared a lot of views with him. And then when the off season came, I mean the off season was just a bit chaotic, right? And it was when the like they removed the promotion, right? So yeah, it was
The LEC formed, right? That was the
yeah,
year the LEC formed.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The LEC formed, the franchising came, and like everyone was like changing their teams and stuff like this. And suddenly I was getting like 12 times my old salary and stuff like this. Like it was wild time for sure. And I think the biggest draw for me on G2 was definitely Jankos, I would say. I think I just thought he was the best jungler, and I definitely wanted to play with him. So he was a big draw. But I think also just Perkz playing AD carry, I thought he was a good player, and I thought if he wants to play AD carry, I believe in him. He had played some AD carry in like the in-houses before, like throughout the different times, because there was always like 5 mid laners that want to play in-house, so we always had to role swap the different mid laners. And he was usually doing quite good on AD carry, like he was doing solids. So if he really thought that he could play AD carry, I believed in him.
He also was because if you remember, that was the season where funnel meta was actually really big, and he was playing some AD carry in the funnel meta. Like he was playing like AD carry mid and stuff in the funnel meta, and it was actually going pretty good. So like it seems like he kind of had some proof of concept there that he could actually like play these champions on stage.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
Totally. Imagine like he already knew back then, you know, he was like Doctor Stranging it, you know, like he was mid-season 2018, he's seeing Yanan playing Heimerdinger bot. He's like, fuck me, man. I need to change this up somehow, you know, I need to piece it together. I wanted to ask you, Caps, as a follow-up, because you've stayed for G2 for such a long time, and I'm wondering in terms of you enacting your leverage, right? Because I think anytime your contract runs out, like I don't think it has in any of the recent years, you would have so much leverage in an off season. Because any Western team that wouldn't, even Eastern teams that wouldn't pursue you, obviously would do like a very, very big mistake. Like I think by the nature of how capitalism should work, I'm hoping that you are the best paid player in the region. But from speaking to you, right, it seems like you are very, very focused on making sure that your team is as competitive as possible. But my question to you is, how have you enacted your leverage as, of course, the strongest player in the region by far? How have you maneuvered the off seasons, or have G2 always come to you with something very, very presentable? It's like, oh, this is what I want. I'm happy. I'm good to go. Or is it something that you've had to like swing and you've kind of had to leverage in a way?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I wanted to join G2, my plan was kind of just like I wanted to have 1 year contract, and I wanted to just like, you know, keep having off season open, because at the time, and I mean even now, it was not like the money that drove me. It was not that I wanted to get. I mean, if I wanted to, I would probably have gone to NA right at the time. I just wanted to have options open, because I felt like that would be the best way of me, like best way of having a chance to win worlds, I guess. It would just be having options open. So I really like the idea of having like 1 year contract, and I could keep shuffling. But I guess G2 had like other ideas, right? and I think that's and at the end of the day, I wanted to play for G2. Like I felt like that team could have been stronger than a potentially like a bunch of different other teams with the 1 year contracts. So I ended up going for that. And I think in terms of like the off season, I think if like it's hard for me, because I think that if I really pushed for something, I'm sure G2 would probably listen. I think I haven't really done that many off seasons. I think I maybe done it like once or something like that. I think in general I don't want to like how do I say it, like just like bulldoze or stampede on everyone's opinions. I think it's important that whatever happens with the team is like a mutual decision between players and staff, and I think especially when it comes to off season, it's been very like hard for me, because I like a lot of the people that we played with, you know, we live with them, and I'm living with them, and I'm talking with them every day, and seeing them go and making the decision around this is like so tough. I think all of these decisions in off season I really dislike, to be honest, but I also know that sometimes they're necessary. So I definitely have taken, I think, less accountability, or like taking a bit of distance that I probably shouldn't have. I think sometimes I could give my opinions more, or like push for things more than I have. But it's just so tough, because at the end of the day, I'm like choosing between people I really care about, and I don't really have the I don't have the powers to do that. Like as you mentioned, like Perkz is like the insane GM, right? I think on the contrary, I'm not very good at it, and I don't really like these talks. And at the end of the day, I also believe in people a lot. Like I think what matters most from anyone on any team, and like the success, is just how much effort you put in the year, right? I think at the start of the year, sure, we can have like a little bit better player, or we can have a little bit worse, but if the worst player puts in more effort, if the worst player is more willing to listen and share his ideas, then we're probably going to be stronger at the end of the year for it. And I don't know, there's so many things to consider, and I don't know, it's difficult. I want to do more. I think I need to take more accountability in the off season, because I think if I want to be the best, I just have to do that. But at the same time, I'm not. I'm sorry for ranting a bit, but it just feels tough to pick between teammates, so to say. Or also when I really, if I like, sometimes it's like I really care about a teammate and I really want to keep them, but if everyone else feels like that's not the best option, or if they can't come to an agreement and stuff like that, I don't want to like veto. I don't want to like stampede on everyone else's opinion, because I think it's important that everyone shares their opinions. I think it's important that we have like a collective agreement, I guess. But it's for sure been weird.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Like in your shoes as well. It's like you've worked with the core of the staff for quite some time, right? I think that you build a sense of trust, right? That everyone has the best interest in the team, and if you would be a bulldozer as you speak, you know, that takes it's a very, very heavy responsibility on the shoulders, and requires a lot of effort that goes beyond the game. As you mentioned, Perkz, like it was always the conversations at the pool. They were very, very, you know, unique, so to speak. I can definitely relate to that. That makes sense.
Yeah. When it comes to the 2020 roster, since we're speaking about rosters splitting up, Perkz, you know, deciding to leave in 2020, how did that affect you? Because we had Jankos on the show, and when Jankos talked to us, he said that it kind of came out of nowhere for him. Like, from his perspective, he thought you guys were just gonna like play together for at least like a couple more years. You guys would play together forever almost, you know, like you would just be the squad. Was this the same perception you had, or how did you feel about Perkz leaving?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely. I mean, I thought he was gonna stay for sure. I think it was like a little bit surprising, but at the same time, like the signs were there for sure, in the sense that like his first split, like season 9, he didn't really like playing AD carry, right? Like he was telling us that like he didn't like AD carry, which is also a big reason why I wanted to swap to AD carry, because again, I really like playing with him, and I thought we had something great together, right? And I swapped to AD carry season 10. And it turns out I really dislike AD carry as well. And
Yep.
I think I was like, okay, I didn't like it as well. So then he swaps back to AD carry, but then it's like, oh, he still dislikes AD carry. So like now we tried some different things, and I think going into that offseason, I think neither of us really wanted to play AD carry. We had some talks about maybe some like crazy like full roster swap and stuff like that. But
Okay.
it felt maybe too.
Wait, who was gonna play AD carry in that situation? Was it gonna be Mickey AD carry?
I mean, okay, so there was a few different talks. I remember Miki saying he wanted to play AD carry, but as soon as he said that, Jankos just burst out laughing, and then that idea
we
was
heard
just
the
like,
story.
yeah, that idea was shut down. I think there was also some talk about Perkz going top and Winther going AD carry. I think we even played a game at Rift Rivals with Winther AD carry and and Perkz top, so we were trying it out in some of our scrims, you know. But I think that at the end of the day, I guess it was just not what ended up happening.
Yeah.
It's like it's a bit of a shame, because it felt like we really liked each other as a team, and it felt like we were also good, and we still had more to prove. But it's like, I think the AD carry role was just too tough for us, both of us. And specifically, at least for me, I was saying like the solo queue was just very impossible to play. There was like some Sona supports. Like, it's actually all the Sona supports out there that they are to blame for that.
Schubert. So Schubert ruined G2 2020. All right, shout out Schubert. Okay, perfect. Just a quick aside here. Let's say hypothetically Perkz was to play in, you know, 2025 as a top laner. How do you think he'd perform?
I mean, I think he could
In the
probably do
NLC.
good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he would do good. I think he would probably be better than someone like Baus. No,
Okay,
but
all right, perfect.
Hey.
Clip it, end it.
No, I think he can be good. But again, I think, as I mentioned before, with the roster, like I don't think, I think it matters which players you have at the start of the year. But what matters most is just like the effort you put in, and not just your effort, but of course the whole team, because everyone on the team will impact each other. So if he puts in a lot of effort, and he also and the rest of the team does the same, I think he will do well, right? But I guess we will see if anything.
Well, what we're doing is we're just trying to reform 2019, 2020 G2 one piece at a time. So, you know, like we're in talks. We're trying to get Wonder in. I tried to poach Mickey X in person. I said, whatever your salary is, I'll double it. And he said, I'm in. So that's a verbal contract. It's already broken. Like Fnatic, they're going to come after me. It's going to be lawsuits, everything. Yeah, this happened over a couple beers. So look, you're the last member. You know, we'll poach you live in front of everyone else, and then we'll just recreate 2019 G2. That's the goal.
Then we'll win you, Master.
Yeah, then you'll win you Masters. Look,
Back to
winning
back,
Worlds at this
baby.
point, like it's too impossible at this point. We got to start slow and build it back up. EU Masters, then LEC, then Worlds. You know, you got to build the momentum back up.
We're playing the 2019 roster until 2040.
Yep.
We'll make it back.
Just have to wait for franchising to just fall apart again and then rise up again, because it started going downhill after franchising. So maybe there's something in here. You know, we're planting a seed for you, Caps. No, but back on a serious note, I wanted to.
This is all
to
a
ask
joke.
you, Caps.
Please don't sue us.
Yes, please.
It's not in the video. This is not in the video. It's just...
Back on the serious note, something that you mentioned is like effort in terms of how you like evaluate players. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you like evaluate effort? Because some players work very differently. It's like you worked with Winther, he works very different. Some players, in terms of how they showcase and put in effort, is very, very different, right? So I'm curious to hear your viewpoint on in terms of how you kind of evaluate players and what value structures you focus on when you evaluate players.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think there's a huge difference between players, just like naturally, right? And I think a big part of effort is like sacrifice, right? And giving up stuff that you might like, but doing what you believe is optimal. Like I think for me, I try to do whatever I think is like gonna make us win, right? Like if I think something is gonna make us win, I will try to do that. And whenever people do that, that's putting an effort towards that. Some people might have a very easy time just playing solo queue all day and spamming the games. Other people might need more breaks, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean they give less effort. They just need some more time doing other things. But then maybe they can give more effort other places. Maybe they watch more VODs.
Is this something you always knew? Like, was this something that you always like were comfortable with, like people playing less solo queue? Because I would assume that like you as a solo queue grinder, you'd want people generally to be playing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think. I think it's a bit weird for me because I joined Fnatic, right? So I kind of like was trying to learn more than like enforce my way of thinking, I guess. And I think on Fnatic at the start there were a lot of people not playing that much solo queue, and I think there was a lot of people that had very strong opinions about other people not playing solo queue. So I kind of came into this like this chaos, I would say, at the beginning. That was actually like one of the biggest topics, was like definitely the solo queue, and some people thought we had to play a lot. Some people thought we had to play no solo queue at all, basically, and they thought it was useless. And I was kind of
so SOAS didn't like playing solo queue. We understand. We got it loud and clear. SOAS hated solo queue.
I mean, I'm not gonna comment on it but it's like it was like, yeah, it was not necessary to us. I'm not gonna say anything, like I don't want to like put people on the spot, right? But basically we had a lot of talks about this, and for me, coming from joining the LEC and joining Fnatic was like the best team in my eyes. I didn't really have any opinions, I guess I would say. Like I kind of had a lot of strong opinions on what I had to do, and I thought playing solo queue was good. So I thought it was weird that people didn't want to play, but at the same time I trusted everyone else a lot more than I trusted like my own opinion. And I think since then I've obviously learned that there has to be a balance, right? Like I think playing solo queue is good. I think playing a lot is also very good, but that just doesn't work for everyone. But then, as I said, there's some other ways to do it, right? There's like watching VODs, I think, and not just watching, but like trying to take things from other teams or from our games and like figuring out like what we can do better, and trying to like really have us implement stuff as a team. I think that is something that some players do really well. I also think like in terms of like leading the team morale or like leading the team spirit, I think is also very important. And that's something that I definitely learned, I think, later on, and I think is something we were maybe lagging in season 11, where the morale was just very low. And suddenly I realized that, okay, it's very important that we have someone that really puts in the effort of like understanding what each person needs and making sure that everyone feels like they're being heard, and making sure there's not these disconnects between people, because I mean there will always be disconnects between people, but at least limiting them and making sure that we can find some common ground, because without that it doesn't matter if we play every single hour every single day. If people are playing different games, like I mean not like literally different games, but different games within League, it's just not gonna work.
Caps for president. I think we need somebody like you in office in the United States, somebody who brings people together. Like I'm just saying, after your pro career, if you want to, oh wait, never mind, you're born in Denmark. You can't be the president of the United States. All I'm saying is that mentality. It was kind of inspiring to me, you know, like as an American, it touched me a bit.
I know
Fair
people
enough.
make
Thank you.
gorgeous birth certificate. It's no problem.
Nice.
Fine,
There's
yeah.
loopholes.
No one will see the esports career and and everything behind it.
No, for sure. No, as a follow-up on what we just spoke about, I wanted to ask you in regards to your own like evolution, because you mentioned now it's like you're at the point. It's like having competing against you and having like watch you, especially like 2021, right? It's like we played against you guys, and it's like that. It's like I had Hilly on my side. You work with Hilly. Like Hilly is an interesting figure. It's like Hilly was someone that made Dom very angry this year watching him play, and he's a very like a very emotional player in terms of it's like it's almost as if how Hilly plays is kind of indicative of the health of the team in a way. But us playing against you guys, something that he was so good at, because it's like walking into that best of 5 against you guys 2021 was of course scary. It's like, oh, we're playing against Caps to see how we're going to figure this out, how we're going to play it. But he like 2 minutes into the game, he could really see the state of mind of like Mickey and Reckless right away. And when I heard his voice booming in how he was talking and how he wanted to like slam the champions he was playing, because most of those games we were playing champions we never like practiced. But the way he was calling for it, the way he was speaking it and so forth, it was like, there was no stopping him. It's like, the way he said it, everyone was sold. It's like, yo, just send it, bro. It's like, he was speaking Lulu, he's speaking Pike. Every game, it's like, this is Pike. I was like, fuck it, Hilly, let's go, bro. You're in the zone. I wanted to ask you in terms of, it's like, because you mentioned, it's like, you mentioned the influence of Reckless and so on in terms of how you played side and so forth, and this is something that they're very, very renowned for. But you've had the pleasure of playing with Hilly and against Hilly, and Hilly is, of course, a player that is very frustrating to play against because he comes mid very, very often. I think he got that from playing with you as well. What is your take on Hilly? How do you evaluate him as a player, and how do you relate your experiences with him?
I mean, he's definitely insane. I think. I mean, I've been like very lucky, right? I got to play with both Hilly and Mickey, and I think
same.
Yeah,
like, very lucky.
yeah, I think like the for them, I definitely think it's not like I learned as much about the game in terms of like I think Source and Reckless. I think being laners also probably has a lot of impact on them, right? Like they know the game, and like from my perspective in a way that is like that I can use way more than maybe the stuff I learned from Mickey and Huli. But I think they are just very insane players, right? I think both of them. I think that's of course I played a lot more with Mickey, but the I will always remember the summer of 2018, especially when it was like we were playing AD carry, because then Hylissang was only roaming, right? And I was playing a lot with him. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to just have like some magic happen. I think he has always been a bit of like a controversial player, I guess, in terms of like, as you mentioned, like he's had a lot of like very like a lot of deaths, like especially the last years. And I will also, I mean, I think some like Mickey has had the same, right? Like people will flame him for like the 0-10 Nautilus and stuff like this. But I think players like Huli and Mickey are really needed in teams, and they're very underrated, because like sure they will end the game sometimes and they will die a lot, but they're not afraid to like go for the play, and it wins so many more games than it loses. Like a support death is like, it doesn't really matter that much a lot of the time. Whereas the engage they find on the AD carry at 35 minutes is like, that just wins the game. That wins the split, so to say, right? So I have a lot of respect for both Huli and Mickey, and I think regardless of I guess specifically Huli looking a little bit worse this last year, I think he can surprise, right? Like a lot of people were doubting him. I think what was it, season 12? I don't know, some season where people were doubting him, and then season 13 he comes in and wins with Mad Lions. So I definitely think he still has the potential. Again, as I mentioned earlier, is he gonna put in the work? Is everyone on his team also gonna put in the work? Because you also have to buy into Hylissang, right? Like I saw specifically from Fnatic, I think there was some voice comms where he was like fighting the Drake, and no one else on the team was fighting Drake. And I'm like, okay, I mean that's not gonna work, right? Like if support is solo fighting, like you need to really find a way to make him work. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily go follow every single call he makes, because sometimes his calls might be too aggressive, right? And you might like lose if you actually follow it. But you need to find a balance where, okay, this play is int, I will not follow it, and it's just really dying. But you still have to follow at least like 90% of the calls, because otherwise he's just dying. Like he's just dying every game. Like why are you even having him on your team, right? So I think I think both of them have a lot of like potential if you can make them work.
Yeah, Karzi was telling us a little bit about Hilly, and he said, guys, like the number one thing you need in Hilly is trust, because he's gonna come in to the beginning of the split and he won't have played like the game for like a month and a half, whatever, since the last split, and he's just gonna run it down in scrims for like a few weeks, and you just have to like tank it as a team and just accept it, and then he'll just be good when it matters. That was his mentality. So that's a little anecdote that we have from Karzi himself, who's playing with him on Vitality.
Holidays are a time to come together, and the best way to stay together is with Aura digital frames. Aura frames are incredibly smart and easy to use. I take way too many pictures that I just never look at, and Aura frames is just the best way to put them to good use. Pictures at holidays of my cats, of my sack, my Christmas gift sack. Now you can put them all on display with ease. It's very easy to set up. There's free unlimited storage, and you can invite just as many people as possible. You can send this as a gift, and you can pre-pack it with as many pictures as you want. It's very, very private, and you can share pictures from absolutely anywhere as long as you have a network just connection, of course. And then the quality is just magnifique. So save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling carbon matte frames by using promo code SACKDOWN at checkout. That is AURA frames.com, promo code SACKDOWN. This deal is exclusive to you, the listeners. So get yours now in time for the holidays. Terms and conditions, of course, apply. They always apply.
Speaking of other teams in the LEC, I wanted to ask you about the health of the league, because it seems like this year, at least from my perspective, I'm liking the rosters more. I think it seems like more competitive than 2023. Back in 2018, 2019, 2020, it felt like the league up until 2022, it felt really competitive. I'm not sure if it's just because of the old splits or whatever. But coming to next year, it seems like it's kind of on the up again. Did you feel like a change in quality or like difficulty of the league, since you started to maybe the last couple years, and then what you think is going to happen in the future? Like how do you view the strength of the LEC over your whole time playing in it?
I think it's very hard, because I will always just value it out for like comparing it to myself. I think comparing to like other regions and stuff like this has always been like super hard, because you never really know until you play it, and then it feels very patch dependent. But I think comparing to myself, I mean, obviously coming into the league, we didn't win the first year right at all, and I think it definitely felt harder than it feels like. I think the first year might have been the hardest it felt, but then I think season 8, season 9, we really started to figure things out, and it felt like I don't know. I think it felt too easy in a way, honestly. Like some of season 8, some of season 9. I think even season 10, right? I definitely think there were times where we were really put to the edge, and some teams really like stood up against us. So, and I think especially Fnatic was a big team like that, right? When I was on G2, but for a lot of the time, it felt like it felt a bit too easy. I think especially season 8, I think that was actually the easiest one in a way. Where in Europe, it felt like we just couldn't really lose. I think especially Reckless was very good, right? It felt like he would just always carry late game, but I also felt very confident against a lot of the other teams. So definitely, I think season 8 would be the easiest. It's a bit weird because season 7 felt like the hardest, and season 8 felt like the easiest. Yeah. I think season 9 and 10, I also felt they were quite easy in a way. Like the level was not that high, but I think we were like, as I mentioned earlier, we would really limit test. Like we would get away. I think we would maybe like try to get away with stuff that was maybe a bit too much. But I think that the last few years it has definitely been stepping up. And
did it feel as easy to win like the splits this year as it looked? Because like from the outside, everyone who's watching is like, no way Fnatic's gonna beat G2. That's what everyone thinks. Like we have like the SAC, everyone is just sitting there. There was one time where in summer, this is before season finals, in the summer final, I was like, I actually think Fnatic can do it this time. Like I was like the sole person. I like went with a hot take. You guys completely. That was the game. That was the series with like all the fucking 5K, 8K, 10K gold throws, and then I lost confidence again. Was it not as easy as it looked? Because this seemed like a breeze for you guys. I felt like no matter your guys' form, you guys would end up winning it either way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, right? I think for sure. I think spring and winter we felt very confident. I think summer we started feeling a little bit less confident. Same for the finals because, as you mentioned, like our form was definitely not there. Like we were definitely running into some issues. I think, and it was the most problematic. I guess time in all our time together. So we were definitely a little bit worried. I think we resorted to like some desperate tactics. And I think it worked out good for us. Of course, it's not like the way we want to win, but at the end of the day, I think we don't really care how we win. We just want to win, and we also want to improve. Now, the way we played was like a little bit, I would say, cheap, right? Because we just picked the tanks and hyperscaling, and then we kind of just counted on the late game, right? So it always feels a little bit dirty when you do it. It feels better in a way when you're just like, oh, we're gonna pick these like super strong lanes and we're gonna play
of course
super aggressive
like,
and we're gonna play good macro and like secure all the drakes and like we have like practiced our Baron setup and then we're gonna do Baron very well and then we just come here and we just do like the scaling and obviously there's also a lot of concepts to surviving but we also kind of failed those. It felt like a lot of them, like we fell very far behind. So yeah, it was not a great time for us for sure, and we still managed to win, which yeah, you can say it's definitely not a great sign for Europe. But in a way, you can also say it was a good sign for our team, right? That we still managed to make it work even when we were in a bad state. I think it's just a matter of perspective.
As a follow-up, in regards to your improvement, both individually and also within your team, like for the majority of your career, you've been on the best team in Europe, right? It's like 2017, 2021, are like leap years in a way. Maybe the year with the Targamas Flacket roster as well. Of course, you guys won one split, right? But the majority of time, you've been on the best team. You've been the best player. I wanted to ask you the challenge of improving within a league where the resistance is very, very varied and most of the time you end up winning. How have you overcome that challenge? Because it seems like even this year, your performance has continued to improve vastly. It seems like the international tournaments are usually like the big push for you and your G2. How do you perceive this challenge of improving within a league where you are clearly the best?
I think it's like I think we can definitely improve even if we're like the best or whatnot, right? I think that it's not like we were so much better than everyone else that we were just like of course I was saying it was easy and stuff like this, but I'm saying it's easy when we're putting in a lot of effort as well, right? I think if we took it easy, if we didn't care much, we would just lose, right? And I think we are the best because we put in a lot of hard work. Of course, if we had tougher opponents, like every time we go MSI, every time we go Worlds, also even like the very short tournament midsummer.
Rift Rivals or what? Or which one
No,
are you talking?
what was
EWC?
esports? Yeah, EWC, esports World Cup.
Okay.
Esports World Cup. Yeah, so even the esports World Cup, where we had like 3 days, we still learned so much these 3 days compared to like the weeks before, right? And it's the same for Worlds, same for MSI. Every single time the next split, we still have lessons that we haven't like optimized from last MSI, from last Worlds. So we're still like learning from the previous Worlds, previous MSI. So obviously we get so much more from the international competition, but it's definitely not like we don't have anything to gain from playing against the EU teams. Even in just regards to like the things that we have learned playing as LPLSK, like putting them into practice is harder, right, than just talking about them and thinking about it. So it's also something that we're working on when we then play the LEC teams, and we can also watch LPLSK and we can see things they do, and we can try to do it ourselves in our games. Is it hard? Yeah, it is. But I also think a lot of that is also just scrims. I mean, I would say even like comparing comparing scrimming against LPLZK come to playing them on stage. Of course, playing them on stage we learn so much more because a lot of times scrims are just a little bit different, I guess. People limit test a lot more. There's not these like super slow standoffs where you really have to optimize everything as much as you can, because in scrims someone is just gonna walk too far and they're gonna get caught. Or the other thing is someone thinks that someone went too far, so they're just gonna go on them. So basically, the standoff will always end in like 3 seconds, you know. And on stage, it sometimes it's like 20, 30 seconds of this like dance where everyone is like dancing around each other, and suddenly like the side waves matter a lot more because if it's 20, 30 seconds, everyone's standing here, then how does the side wave look? And how does everything look, right? Everything just matters way more compared to this stand-up where just 2 seconds and then someone goes either side goes. So the stage games against LPLZK have been super helpful for us, and we're gonna do everything we can to learn from it. Same now with the new team, right? There's some things that we need to like teach them. We need to catch them up to speed, and maybe they have some ideas, right? They have like things from their teams that they can like teach us as well. And it's also just good to get some fresh ideas, right? Because all of us by default will be a little bit different, but scrims are just trying to I mean, understand the meta is a big thing, right? Especially with the new patch, but also just getting the same idea and everyone connecting so that when we are on stage and something happens, everyone knows what to expect.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah. Go ahead,
yeah,
Ben.
I wanted to just ask you. I mean, we talked about it briefly, but I just wanted to ask you about the new patch and how you perceive competitive esports being, because like it looks crazy. It looks like there's just going to be fighting all the time. So like obviously you've got the ability to scrim on it, play on it. You don't have to leak anything, but how do you perceive the new patch being and like the new map being?
But I don't think I can leak anything, right? Like everything is public, I think, on the patch.
Yeah, I think so.
The patch is open. Yeah, that's
okay.
The data is available. People are streaming the in-houses, so you're good.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. No, I think it's definitely feels like perma-fighting. Like there's fight for everything. Like there's the Herald, the Grubs, the Drake, the YamatoCannon. It feels like there's always some objective spawning. Now people really care about the feats of strength as well. So everyone's talking about like the boots and the roses as well. Like we need to get the roses. If you see the rose on the map, you're like, we need to get all the roses. And I think a bit of it is like for sure the off season, because the off season is always way more aggressive and people's read on the meta is it's just way more aggressive. Just as like I said, scrims are more aggressive than stage. Off season is just more aggressive than than even the scrims are usually. So I remember last year everyone was like, Elise Lucian is just unplayable to play against because it's just like, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that's like the most OP, but it's just the in-house aggression is key for sure. And it definitely feels like that way as well. I think the YamatoCannon has been very fun actually. I quite like doing it. I think it might actually be my favorite objective. I think that the Herald, like the of course they added the Herald. I guess that was like 7-8 years ago at this point, and they had the Grubs as well, right? Which I think they're nice, but I think the YamatoCannon I like it more than those. It just feels good to do. It feels fun to contest it. It's like in a very awkward position as well, so it's like very different from like previous like Drake and Herald fights. And there's a lot of new things you have to think about, like I don't know. It's been very fun to figure it out, and I still think we're like far from having like an optimal read on it. But specifically the YamatoCannon has been fun.
Yeah.
And then of course there's also like the turret change, which is something that we have to get used to because we're always just like, I guess we're just dead now when we dive someone. Diving feels a lot harder.
For people that don't know, when the YamatoCannon spawns, the voracious YamatoCannon, it gives you essentially like a pseudo GA for like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, something like this. So pretty much what happens is if you die, you give 100 gold, but you respawn in base instantly. So you respawn all the way in your base as opposed to like where you die as opposed to GA. And like the things that people are doing with this, I mean, everyone is just chain inting. Like everyone just runs in and dies because it's like, we can die. It doesn't matter. We get aced. We lose 500 gold. It doesn't matter. So like, I just want to see what Mickey and Hilly do when they have voracious YamatoCannon. Like when they're like, I mean, we have YamatoCannon. Like I'm just going. Like it's gonna be insane next year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just maybe they'll just play the same, to be honest, because that's just like that is just how they're used to playing. You know, they just always have YamatoCannon. They always have YamatoCannon.
Yeah. I mean, they always have YamatoCannon. I mean, it doesn't get any more aggressive than that, right? Like there's a limit to like how far forward you can actually be.
I think for sure a lot of people will waste it, right? Like just get it and just instantly run in and die. Like we actually had to talk about it because that like the public opinion was definitely that everyone will just waste it. I kind of also had the other opinion as well, where I could definitely see everyone is playing super aggressive with it in scrims, but then I could definitely see some of the early games on stage where people get it and they will just run out and they will not do anything with it. They'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, there's Drake in 3 minutes, let's just like full clear and just do waves and then it just runs out. I can see that as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's definitely been happening before.
Yeah, I'm trying to like theorize what's the best with AutoCannon. Like right now, I'm kind of biased towards like playing the map really thin because it's not like Baron where you can just group on 5, like you can group on like 1 lane or 2 lanes and you can push down turrets super easily because people still have wave clear and stuff. So I feel like the playstyle where like everyone just where you just push every lane and you just don't care about like if they catch one side. I feel like maybe that's like the best. There's gonna be a lot of variations and people trying to figure it out, but I think playing the map thin is my idea right now. Do you have any like
Yeah.
overall concepts that's not going to leak too much of how to use it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for sure makes sense. I think for sure it also depends, right? Like if the Drake and the Baron comes up, it can be like a huge advantage
Baron's
to
up.
have it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that can for sure be a huge advantage. But I think like pushing everywhere definitely makes sense. And I think in general, just like you can just play a little bit more aggressive, which I quite like because also it's like you can really go for the like even last year I was playing Tristana and I was going for a lot of 1v2s on site. But like now you can do it like with every champion. I mean, assuming it has some chance of working, right? You can really go for like the montage, the extra
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. That's huge.
It's so crazy to think that this is just going to be like for essentially fearless
3 months.
and then
Yeah.
it's like and then it's going to be gone, I I kind of wanted to tie this into it's like the internationals. I was speaking with Mowgli. I interviewed him on my stream and he told me that like to win worlds you need to have a lot of luck. And I'm curious from your side because you've had so much experience now. You've been at the World Championship. You have very varied results. You've been at the top, and you've had tough tournaments too. I wanted to ask in regards to how much you can prepare for the randomness of things and how fast you need to adapt to things real time and how crazy your scheduling can be sometimes. Like I know there's been weeks sometimes in preparation for Worlds games where the other team has media day, the scrims are cancelled, you do two games here, then you have media day, and then one player gets sick, one player loses a leg, one player gets lost in Starbucks. You never know what happens at the World Championship in terms of your practice. In regards to this, how do you prepare for this? Like, how has your experience been a leverage point, and what is something that you are going to give to Labrov and, of course, Cumond, who have a lot less international experience? Cumond, of course, coming in as a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that's of course like the main, like the biggest thing is like our level, right? Like our game, like a gameplay understanding of our like patch understanding. Sure, the patch will change, but it's not like I mean, okay, I guess it was like a bit 180 this world's patch, but usually it's not like everything changes. So as long as we have a lot of champions we're comfortable with, and we understand how to play them, both like micro and macro wise, I think that's a big advantage already going into worlds. But then there comes the real life challenges, as you mentioned, right? Like the having content days. Suddenly we go from scrimming every single day to having a lot more like travel days or content days or like just media days in general. And we might be in a very different country with, I guess, different setup. Like everything might be a little bit different. And like even in China, we might not have access to the same like websites and stuff like this that we might have to in other countries. So there's a lot of things you have to adapt to. I think that we've been very like lucky to have like Isma, our sports psychologist. He's been helping us a lot with finding a lot of like tools, I guess, in terms of like what do we do when we go to a hotel and our neighbor is just like singing at 8 a.m. Like super loud, like all these kind of things where it's like, oh, normally maybe your sleep gets ruined, but I think we have definitely found a lot of tools to dealing with the food, dealing with sleep, dealing with the stress of Worlds, and also just like being able to use the downtime. Like whenever we are at these constant days, whenever we are traveling, there's a lot of like 1 hour just like bus rides back and forth, maybe to the venue, maybe to somewhere we have to shoot something, and using these times the most efficient, I think is definitely crucial. Whether it's like meditation or sleep or trying to to bond together. Maybe you're having some bit of fun, or maybe you can actually talk about drafts. Sometimes we might have the other teams there, so we can't really talk about league at all. But yeah, just trying to optimize all the different parts of this bootcamp is definitely important. And I mean, I've been lucky that I've been to so many that I have a quite a good idea for me. But what works for me will not necessarily work for Skumond and Labrov. But they, like, we can at least share the experiences we've had, and maybe they can find their own solutions.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by overpriced wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I heard that all Mint Mobile wireless plans are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online, which means that they don't have to pay for retail stores or salespeople or have expenses like that. Instead, they deliver premium phone plans directly to you. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number all along with all your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/sackdown. That's mintmobile.com/sackdown. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/sackdown. Disclaimer, this will be a $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
And if we hone in on the gameplay side, because I look at the last 2 Worlds campaigns that you guys had, of course, with G2, like a big thing that stood out this year was, of course, it's like the commitment to Orianna Nocturne. And sometimes it's like you are staring always in the battle of the gun. It's like, are you going to play what you practice and succeeded with, or are you going to pivot now because this is now the result after 1 game? How do you deal with the practice? Because even the years, the Worlds from last year was that particular one when people found the Orianna, Draven, Kalista bans, it looked like it was, of course, a lot rougher. How do you prepare yourself for anything in a way? Do you just make commitments, or do you have to trust your gut at all times? If you can elaborate maybe on the example of the Orianna Nocturne commitment 4 games, it was something that was driving me and Dom crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I mean, I think every turn will be a little bit different because it depends a lot on the patch, right? And I think a Worlds patch like this, where we suddenly have to swap a lot of champions, like suddenly we have to play completely different mid jungles, I guess was like the main thing, right? It definitely was something we had to try out, and for us, everything was just failing. But the biggest obstacle for us, to be honest, was actually the lane swap. Like we were scrimming a lot of NA teams, and then we started scrimming some of the LPLSK when they arrived. But we were getting completely stumped. Like I think Romain even showed the scrim results. So you can see very early on that like we were going like 1-5 against TL and FlyQuest. And the thing is, they were just stomping us from lane swap. We would be like 10k down at 15 minutes. And I, like as like a mid laner, it was a bit sad and like frustrating to some extent because of course you have, I would say, the least impact in lane swap. And it got to the point where at the end I was trying to like micromanage some people in lane swap, but it's like I'm also trying to lane my lane, right? But I think we were just very, very far behind in this thing, and I think it kind of just ruined our bootcamp, to be honest, because it's like the whole bootcamp became about lane swap. Like everything we talked about was basically about lane swap, because anything else is useless. All the champs we play, like sure we would lose or win some on some, but it was so biased on if our opponent's lane swapped or not. Because if our opponent's lane swap, we just had a 0% win rate, like actually just 0% win rate. So all our other champions would just look worse or bad based on that. And I think that towards the end we got a lot better at lane swapping. I still think we were quite like I don't think we had a great understanding at it, to be honest. And I think it ended up costing us a lot even at Worlds. But I think we got a lot better at it for sure. And I think we tried to improve on it a lot. And something that was actually working for us was like there was 2 strats that were working for us a lot in scrims, was like the Yone draft and the Orianna draft. And it was like anything else we were just kind of losing on. And we were losing a lot against the Orianna as well. And of course, I think Aurora will end up being like a bit of a perm ban. But the Orianna, we were winning almost every single game on, and it looked very strong with the Nocturne. We were doing the combo a lot. People were like dying to it. And likewise, whenever we had Yone, it kind of enabled Yike to also play a lot of the Brand and the Syra, which we had a lot of success with in summer. And suddenly we had a lot of success with that. But then a lot of the other comps we played just kind of failed. So I didn't really have the confidence in a lot of the other things. I think that we also won our first Arena game, right? Or Nocturne against the Weibo.
Weibo, yep.
Yeah. And then we tried to run it back against T1, and also even the games against T1, like at least the second game, the game state was like, we should probably have won this, right?
3 inhibs and Baron spotting, no flash
yeah.
buy. Yeah.
So it's like I don't know if that's like, I don't know if it's like, oh, Arena Nocturne is the problem. I feel like it's more like a us problem, right? In this game at least. And then I think when we finally lost the last game, like the first game to BLG, we were like, okay, this is just not working. Like our games, like our way is just not working. Let's just like send it, let's try something else. Let's like we didn't necessarily really have a plan. It was just kind of like we only have this one plan. Everything else was failing, right? Which is obviously a huge problem. But I think a lot of that was definitely it was definitely a lot of the prep, right? But then going into the last game, we're like, okay, we don't really have a plan, guys. Let's just like kind of wing it. Let's see what they pick. Let's pick what we feel like. Let's play confident. Let's go out with no regrets, right? And I think that's where the Silas game came from. I think we had one game of Silas in scrims the whole Worlds, right? And I don't even know if I like when I last played Silas, but it's obviously a champ I really like playing, and I would have loved to have gotten more practice on it, because that would have been a huge champ at Worlds, right? And I think that sadly we went out in the next game against BLG, but I think if we could have survived here, we would have had a very different understanding, right? Because suddenly everything shifted, I would say. Like I think the biggest change that we ended up happening was like throughout summer, it was like we were playing a lot of the Syra brand, and we were playing like very carry jungle, super farm, like full clear, get super ahead in tempo, and it kind of limited enemy jungle, because if he ganks, he would just fall super far behind. Like we would take all his camps. If the gank failed, it would be GG, and if it gank succeeded, it would still be fine. But suddenly at Worlds, that was not the case anymore. We were not playing these hyper carry junglers, and I think for me, I was slow to adapt, because for example, against T1 and the first game against BLG, when I was playing the Arena, they just ganked me every game level 3, right? And I didn't realize that they had this free time. Like I think the kind of the and this goes back to a lot of lane swap, right? Because
Yeah,
then
like you think he's diving the side lane always.
Yeah, you think he's diving the side lane, and also I can say from our experience, because our lane swap was quite poor, we had to like, how do I say it, like we had to sacrifice a lot of stuff to make it work. And one of the things we sacrificed was Yike's time, right? And Yike ended up kind of just like being slower in a lot of the games. For example, the first game against BLG, and in return, they just ganked me, right? They just ganked me, and it makes the Arena game very hard, because Arena against Ari is like very winning 1v1, but if you just get ganked level 3 every game, you lose flash. It slows down the game a lot.
Yeah, it was the LeBlanc game, right? That's the one you're talking about?
Oh yeah, the LeBlanc game, right? So,
yeah,
so playing against LeBlanc once and Ari twice in these 3 games, and all of them, they just went for it, right? And the LeBlanc game, they killed me. I think the 2 Ari games, I didn't die, but it obviously made it so that instead of being like super far behind and creating a lot of pressure from mid, I just went like about even or like a bit behind, right? And the LeBlanc game, I died, so I actually felt like, I think, pretty behind. But basically, there was not the same punish as that would have been in summer. And it's like something we obviously, it's like, oh, we should have realized that. We should have thought about that. Or I should have thought about that. But a lot of that also came from like the lane swap, because then in lane swap, the jungler also a lot of the time cannot do these ganks, right? But yeah, I think it was definitely something we hadn't really figured out well enough. And
I mean,
it's just,
from my perspective watching the games, it felt like you guys were picking like Ori Nocturne to me was always something that you pick versus like low amounts of mobility. So you have like a target to go on. You want to like combo them. You want to get them down as fast as possible. And in those games, it just seemed like so unplayable when I was looking at BLG's draft. It's like they have LeBlanc, they have Jax, they have Skarner. Their AD carries the Kaisa, who's positioning 5 screens away. It just seems like there's actually no way for you guys to be able to fight. But yeah, I mean, what Yamato and I were saying when we were watching the games was maybe in that type of game you don't even play the Ori Nocturne combo. Like you both just play like you play Orianna, he plays Nocturne. You don't even look for the combo because it's so hard to land, and you just try to like play the game as isolated champions. Was there any like thought about this in the game, or like when you were drafting? Were you worried about these types of drafts? Because it seems very difficult for Ori Nocturne. As the tournament went on, we saw like the decline of Ori Nocturne's popularity.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of worry, right? And I think a lot of it, like we were like feeling a lot of comfortable. I think as a team, as I said, we were just not at our most comfortable because, as I said, we had a very tough time in both spring and in summer and the finals, and then we went to Worlds, and this was like our worst time ever, right? We just got stumped by everyone, and we were struggling so much. So it felt like our confidence was just at an all-time low, and obviously we had to have something we put our confidence in, and I think for us that was the Orianna Nocturne. Then when we won against Weibo, we got like a surge of believing, you know, like it's like we can make this work, right? And then I think we tried to make it work. We sadly, like in a way, it's sad because the T1 game is like it was so winnable that it's like if it had been a win, it would obviously be great, right? Then everything would be good. But because of the way we lost, it's like it still felt like we should have won this game, and it was not like necessarily the draft as a problem, right? It was more just, I mean, it was just gameplay, gameplay problem. Like if we
just don't let the Vi enter, please. Just
yeah. So like this one was on us, right? Like even before that, we made multiple mistakes on throwing it back. So like we had this game in our hands if we played it better, and then you just feel like okay. This was like so going off of that game. It's not like we're thinking, oh, Orianna Nocturne's the problem. We were more thinking like, okay, we need to make sure that I mean Vi doesn't enter. I think we ended up dying on like bot tier 3 as well, trying to see to that and stuff like that. So it's like there were a few lessons we took away, but it was not necessarily the draft lesson. And it was not until we lost to BLG we were like, okay, let's just swap it up.
Yeah.
It's crazy how a world's functions like that, because you guys were not like the only ones stuck in some kind of a story, because that adaptation just happened real time. It was like Billy and T1 like made adaptations through and through. I think How Alive, the way they exited, right? It's like they were stuck on the Ari and the Silas answer came through. And then suddenly it's like Silas blind came through. They didn't have the answer. And then they finally decided to slam Silas, and then the Galio came through. And I think real time, it's like you get shocked by things like this. I think it was the same for Genji, right? I think in the end, Chovy, I believe he had like 7 Ari games at the tournament, and you're just there asking yourself, should I play what I have practiced, or should I pivot completely? It just seems so hard to judge real time. A little piece of information that I can share too is I met Nuktak in person right after they lost to How Life, because I was in studio there, and something that he told me, he was so angry that Team Liquid was lane swapping against the EU teams. He was like, why are we revealing this to the EU teams? They are so shit at it. Why are we doing this against them? Because and he said, bro, I watched LEC and they're playing Nidalee versus Irelia top. They don't know what lane swapping is at all. They are confused. So I can share this little piece of information. I'm sure that Nuktak is fine with that. But Dom, what do you have?
No, I was just gonna say that at least you can hang your hat on the fact that you guys were the 3rd best team at the tournament, because you guys got eliminated by T1 and BLG. You know, the 2 finalists, T1 the winner, obviously, and you know those you just got an unlucky draw. You know, you guys were probably better than Genji. Probably would have beat Hanwha Life. You know, like Weibo, all these teams.
I mean, we did lose to Hanwha Life as well.
Yeah, but in a best of 5, you guys would have clutched up. You know, like Peanut, you know, his choker and stuff like that. So you can just hang your hat on that. But I think that what you said here gives a lot of context to like the decisions that were made in the offseason, because a lot of like, you know, the lane swaps are led by your support and jungle, like what wave you're diving and all this type of stuff, and bringing more stability in those roles might end up helping for an easier game. Yamato, if you don't have anything else on this, I kind of wanted to talk to Caps a little bit about his champion pool and like solo queue, because I feel like it's pretty interesting. So are you good on the worlds topic, or do you want to go deeper?
No, I'm good. I guess like the only thing that I was really curious about was tying into like the rookie thing. I just wanted to ask in terms
God, you
of
love rookie.
I'm tying it into to an overarching question, because it's like you keep facing the same names, right, over and over again at the World Championships. Like it's Chovy, Knight, Faker, and then with a little dash of Zeka sometimes, maybe a little Yagao sometimes. It depends on who shows up. But it's like the usual suspects show up. I wanted to ask you in terms of the separation, because you also show up. It's like your name also shows up. So I made this big video about how you, Chovy, Knight just keep dominating regionally time and time again, and then you are back at the World Championship, and you guys are chasing, of course, the world's trophy. What do you think is the big separation between like these big names and whoever else? It's like what separates you from the rest of Europe? What separates these guys from the rest of everything? What is the special sauce? What do you feel playing against them over the last how many years? So many years.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an interesting question. I think they, and I think it's hard also to maybe answer from their side, because I maybe don't play against like all the LPL mids, right? I guess you said I will play against the similar ones, so I won't necessarily face the other ones. But I think a big reason can probably be that the regional league is you're playing as the same team for like such a long time that you will learn from them, and you will whoever puts in the most work basically will probably shine at the end, is kind of how I see it. Like you keep playing against each other, and if I keep putting in a little bit more effort, I will probably get ahead of the other mids. Whereas when you go to Worlds, it's not people you played against for the last like 2 months, it's all these different regions going up against each other. So whoever reached like the highest point will have like a big advantage there. And sure, as I said, you scrim and stuff like this, and you can definitely catch up in the short time. But it's always like the world's winners has always been a little bit different. I guess, I mean, of course, Faker has won a lot, but compared to regionally, I think there's definitely a little bit more variance there, like in who wins. Like there's more different teams winning, and I think a lot of that is probably the shorter tournament, which I guess also makes it a lot more exciting and more fun. And I think in terms of LPKL and LCK, like a player like Knight, but also I guess especially a player like Chovy, it's like when he really has a grasp of things, he's very scary to play against. Like when he understands when he gets help from his teammates, when he understands like the matchup, he will be very punishing, and you don't really get to do your game against him. And I think against him, the best you can do is of course either try to beat him in that game, or what ends up happening at Worlds a lot, I could imagine. And also, I mean, some other games can be is this like these new matchups, as you said, right? Like, oh, suddenly this champ is super strong, suddenly this champ is super strong, and if he hasn't solved everything, if he hasn't like figured it out, if he doesn't have his prep time, maybe he's like Batman, if he gets the prep time, then he wins. But Faker is Superman, so no prep time, then he wins.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I like that. We gotta perpetuate that. Chovy is Batman, but Faker is Superman. Since we're on the topic and you've played against these guys so much, I wanted to talk to you about the difference between Faker at MSI and Worlds, because you got to play against him at both. And I mean, I would say in the first series that you played against Faker at MSI, it seemed like you really got the better of him. Like the way you were killing him, it just seemed like really like shocking in a way. Like when you were playing against him, did you feel like a lot of difference between the level he was at MSI compared to Worlds?
I would say yes and no. I think obviously I played a lot more against him at MSI. I think it was 8 games against only 2 at Worlds.
Yep.
But we also definitely scrimmed him. And I think the thing about Faker at MSI is that I definitely think he was in a bit of a slump, right? Like I think his level was quite low, but in terms of comparing him to usually like in laning against him and playing against him, but he still carried most of the games. Like he still found these like I would be like really far ahead against him. He finds a TP behind my bot lane, and he gets a double kill, and suddenly he's super strong in the game. Or he gets a really good push out bot into TPing Nash, and they get a good Nash timer. There was always like the RA one shot as well, where they come back, right. So I think he always has this like clutch factor, and the fact that they were able to win against us even when he wasn't at his best is definitely impressive, and also frustrating for us, I think, and just means we will have to work even harder. But I think at Worlds, the biggest thing for me was that he, as I mentioned before, he had a way better idea of working with his team, like as I mentioned, especially the free gank, it just kind of shut down all the possible like advantages, I guess I would say. Like at Wells, at MSI, a lot of the games we won, I was getting some advantage in mid, or I would get like a kill, or I would get some CS advantage or some pressure advantage, and I could push it. But these 2 games we played, they kind of just like level 1, they went into mid and they took control of the bush, like the side bush, so we couldn't really ward there. And then they were just level 3 gank, right? And then it's like they didn't kill me, but I think one time they burned a flash, the other time they maybe chunked me, and suddenly it's like it goes from me trying to get an advantage to just me trying to go even and trying to survive, right? And I think that just gives Faker way more room to play the map. If you let him get out of early game, he's very scary, right? He is super clutch. He finds like these angles that other people just don't see. And sadly, he not only got out of lane, but he also found the angles.
Yeah, it's funny because that's how in Europe, that's how everyone describes Caps. that's the way it is. It's like, yeah, like he just sees the angles and no one else sees. Like you let him get out of lane, like he's gonna just do weird shit in the side lane, 1v2 you randomly, and like the game will be over. Since you've played against all these guys, like who do you feel is like the best mid laner to play against? Is it Chovy? Is it Faker? Is it Knight? Maybe somebody else? Like is it Rookie? Is it humanoid?
I think,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all like the thing that's so hard about like League, especially, is
different.
that it's, yeah, I mean, one, they're so different, and I don't know how much of like, especially the like how people do in comms and how people do in strategy, like what people are leading in. But I think from like a full like individual player, I definitely think Chovy is the best, right? Like in terms of like just like laning, and like his like mechanics. I think he's just the best there. Like, I think that's like, I mean, I just think he's actually like I would say even significantly better than both Knight and Faker. But obviously Faker has won so many times, and even Knight has also beaten Chovy. So it's like it's not like that is the one deciding factor of a player, right? But the other things are just so much harder for me to value because it's like it's every game is different.
Chovy? Has Knight actually beaten Chovy? I don't think he has he?
Billy beat them at MSI when JDG won, right?
Yeah, but he was on JDG back then.
And T1 put them in lower bracket, right? Yeah, maybe he didn't.
Yeah, maybe he never played again. Like, because I think like what did they only play? That's the thing that's so sad about League is like I try to like think about like these play. I'm like Knight versus Chovy, and it's like wait, have they played like I think they played one best of 5 against each other in their entire careers, and then
I guess maybe he didn't then. But I guess I mean but I guess Faker and Chovy has played a lot, and while Chovy has, I mean Chovy has also won a lot of them for sure. I don't know what their overall head-to-head is, but Faker has definitely won. I mean, a very important one here at Worlds, right? And for sure. He continues to find these angles all these years later, right? I've been watching him since season 3, and you were saying that I love what I do. It's like similar to what I was talking about Faker, but I've also been always just watching Faker, right? He was the mid laner to watch, so I definitely draw a lot of inspiration from him. And at the end of the day, like I would love to be like the guy. Oh, he's unplayable to play against. He's just like dominates the game and wins at all points of the game, and he's so strong. But that's not really the most important for me. The most important for me is just winning, right? Like, and that's what Faker does best. So if you want to learn from anyone, I think it's him.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Holiday season is officially upon us, and of course, MeUndies too. My go-to brand for unbelievable comfort. It has you covered for absolutely everything, not just underwear. From lounge pants to hoodies, sweats and onesies, MeUndies is so much more than just an underwear brand. And since the holidays are here, what could be a better gift for everyone on your list than a gift of comfort from MeUndies? You know, it's like, I like to think that the things that you should invest in are things that you spend a lot of time in. And most of your day, you're wearing underwear. So invest in your underwear, mate. There's a style for everyone. MeUndies is a cut for absolutely everyone with over 20 different styles and hundreds of different colors and patterns and prints. And of course, if you're feeling seasonal, there's that too. There's a holidays collection. Versatile loungewear, as I mentioned before, MeUndies isn't just about underwear. You can explore the lounge collection to get even comfortable in more areas than your crotch area. Unmatched comfort, already mentioned. Responsibly sourced is super important. Nowadays, we are very smart consumers. We care about where the material is from and how everything is sourced. They use sustainably sourced materials and work with partners that care for their workers. Problem-free philosophy. Not happy with your first pair of MeUndies? Somehow, if by some miracle you're feeling grumpy, no problem. It's on MeUndies. So, what are you waiting for? Knock out all of your holiday gifting needs today with, of course, MeUndies. To get exclusive holiday deals and savings all month long, go to MeUndies.com/sackdown. And the promo code, of course, sackdown. That's MeUndies.com/sackdown, code sackdown, MeUndies. Comfort from the outside in. I wanted to ask, because you mentioned this, like, Faker is Superman, we have Chovy is Batman, and Knight is Robin. I wanted to ask you, Caps, in your own personal view, what are the conditions where you think you are the best? It's like, what is the meta that you love the most? What kind of, which superhero character are you in this universe that we're building here?
Yeah, I'm not sure which superhero I am, to be honest. I think I'm aiming for the Superman, right? But it's definitely hard when Faker's around. So I will. I mean, again, but there was definitely some cracks in the armor this year. He almost didn't make it right to Worlds, and if LCK take him out before he makes Worlds next year, then maybe it's my time to be Superman.
Okay.
But I think that's what we're looking for. But no, but I think that's definitely as something you mentioned earlier. I think I'm quite good at taking risks. Like I understand risk quite well. Like I think I have a good read on the map, which is also why like some of the ganks that people don't expect, it's because I can see the map and I see like, okay, they should not expect this to happen, and I'm also willing to take the risk. Like if I think something is good, I have very high confidence in it and I will just do it. I'm not gonna like second guess myself. Of course, sometimes I have, but I will very rarely do that. So I think confidence is like a big factor. And then I think like I guess creativity is also a big thing, right? I think a lot of League is just finding these weird angles, right? And a lot of it becomes very champion specific, where you have to like, there's certain things you can only do on one champion. Like the Tristana 1v2s was something we're consistently doing, but it was always on Tristana. Like most of them were on Tristana because it was just something she could do, right? She was just very balanced. But it was like a strategy we had. It was just like a strategy we had, right? And it's a very like a risky strategy at the time, but it also just felt kind of like unbeatable at certain points. And it comes from practice. Like, right, I know, okay, when I have these items, I can probably 1v2. It's like I feel quite confident in that, and it felt like their options were quite limited in how they contested. Like because even just going towards me, they will probably give like the Drake or whatnot, and otherwise I'll just draw so much pressure. So like that, like finding like these, I guess, creative angles is I think what League is all about. Of course, you can always optimize, and that's also what I said with Chovy. Like maybe he is less focused on like the things like outside of lane, I guess, or later in the game, of finding these kind of angles, and he's more focused on the actual individual matchup, like who gets pushed here, when can I contest, when do I need vision, when do I, like if I have these jungle champions with this champion, when do they interact with each other, right? And I think all of these things matter, and everything is like everything will make a difference. But the beautiful thing about League is that there's like infinite variables in a way, so you can just choose what you want to focus on. And if you focus on the right thing, you will win, right? So like if you put your energy in the right place, you're probably gonna take it at the end. It feels like I always say that it feels like a little bit when you were kids, and you were playing like pretend fight. I don't know if you guys did it, but you were like, oh, I'm shooting you. It's like, oh, but I have a shield. And it's like, oh, but my bullet goes through the shield. That's how League feels a lot of the time, where it's like, oh, but we put 4 people at Drake. It's like, oh, but we have one guy split pushing up here. Oh, but the split push doesn't work because I just TP back. Yeah, but then I TP here. Like it's like a lot of like all these factors, and it's like if you're one step ahead of the opponent, you will probably win. So it's yeah, it feels fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to change the topic a little bit and jump to solo queue and how you integrate champions into pro play, because I feel like this is something that you do almost better than anyone else. Like you're very willing to try new things that are considered broken. Like if you see something popping off in solo queue, you'll always be like the first one to play it. If a new champion comes out, your solo queue account has like 40 games of him like the first week. And you're very open to trying different things in pro play. So I wanted to ask like where this came from, I guess, and then like how much do you do like statistical analysis, you go to like Lolytics, stuff like this to judge win rates. How do you decide on like bringing these champions in? Because you seem very open to bringing almost any champion in the game into mid lane and competitive play.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely I started up in my first split. I think I was just like kind of like trolling a bit my time. I was just only playing different champs kind of, because that was how I liked it a bit in the past. Like I was just playing a lot of different heroes and playing a new one every game. But I think as I played a few splits, I realized like, oh, for example, like season 7, the big realization for me was like, wait, I should have just played Orianna Syndra every game. Like these champs were completely unbalanced in season 7. And at the start of the year, I was playing all these other things. I was playing Kale, I was playing like Vladimir, I was playing like, I don't know, I had like 15 different, my champion was like 20 different cheese picks. so it was just not optimal for sure. And since then, it's been a little bit different. I think it changes like every split, every now and then. I get like a different philosophy on the game, right? But I definitely try to find like the strongest picks and just spam them out and really get to have a good understanding of them. But if there's anything that I think is OP, I will test it out. I will play it out, right? Like if Aurora comes out, it's like a good chance she might be strong. I am of course gonna spam it out and figure out if she is strong or not, right? And in terms of like websites like Lolytics, I definitely use it a lot, and same for other websites as well, right? And I also have like Rodrigo, our analyst, and like I think, I don't know if it's analyst or assistant coach is necessarily the title, but he definitely works a lot with us as well to figure out the strong champions on the patch. I think especially for BB, he's been together. They've been finding like so many picks this year, right?
Yeah.
Like there was
The
the
Zac
Rexar
and
and the Zac and the Mundo, and like there was all. yeah, we had the Kled mid the year before, right? So like there's been definitely a lot of picks that came
the
up there.
Aureliant in Italy.
Yeah, the Aureliant in Italy. yeah. So.
Interesting.
But it's definitely a work in progress, right? Which so much of League is, but I don't think there's ever optimal way. Like back in 2023 spring, it kind of went back to the troll path again. It was after the Kled mid actually, as you mentioned, because then we just won with the Kled mid, and it was just the time where people were playing the Gragas mid, the Kled. Like now we played the Kled mid, and suddenly my champ pool, there was a week where, like at the start of that split, it was just only troll pick. Like the first week, I also played 2 Malphite mid games, but my champ pool was just like, I had Malphite in my champ pool. It was like Rammus. I was playing Cho'Gath. I was playing like, it was just like a list. It was like a list of 15 troll picks basically. And then we were like, so what are we blinding in this situation? I was like, my only blind is Cho'Gath. And that was like a meme we've always had since, because it was like, that was just like the blind pick I had was just like Cho'Gath mid. But the thing as well is that we were winning so much with it, so you get into this meta game. Like I actually got a pentakill against Mad Lions on Cho'Gath mid in Spring Split in scrims, which is why for week 1 or for week 2 of Spring Split, you will see that Mad Lions actually blind pick Cho'Gath mid on stage, and they end up playing against I think Aurelion Sol, the super OP Aurelion Sol. And yeah, they just lost. Turns out Cho'Gath mid was not as good as as it looked in that game. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Cho'Gath mid. I mean, Rammus mid. I don't even know, how does that even work. Rammus mid. What do you even play that into? Like you play it into ADs, I assume.
Yeah, it was a lot of 80 millimeters. Like I was playing against Yasuo, I was playing against Yone, I was playing against Aurelia. We ended up playing against Aurelia on stage as well, against Leader, and I ended up going for the Malphite. But we were between Malphite and Rammus was like our options.
Oh man, the content would have been crazy. The YouTube videos would have popped off. Caps on Rammus mid, every coaster where we would have feasted off at. That'd have been huge.
I remember those crazy meta games, bro. It's like you got me flashbacks to Nuktak again. I remember there was like this meta where Vladimir mid was OP, then people picked Cho'Gath into Vlad, and then people started blind picking Cho'Gath. Once again, the same thing as now. This is 2015, and then the conclusion was from Nuktak's side was, I need to pick a champion that doesn't care if he's silenced. So picking Mundo mid into Cho'Gath. And then he started Ruby Crystal, and on first base he just bought Sidestone. But it got so weird. We're like, the scrim bubble in the end is like, you go on stage and we're just confused at some point.
I've been in the same situation. I mean, I think the hardest thing is like you forget what the starting point was of the whole situation. You get so deep that you're like, how did we even get here? Like, what was the impetus for all of this? So it's always difficult to find out champions. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how you bring new champions into the meta. And I guess the last thing I wanted to talk to you about would be like how you balance your time as a player, because before you said that you used to play a ton of solo queue, you didn't watch that much competitive when you were getting into the competitive scene. So are you still playing like more solo queue, not watching too much competitive? How much like LCK, LPL do you watch? Like how do you balance your time as like a pro player? Because I think it'd be interesting for people to hear how somebody becomes caps.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely watched a lot more. I think that's the biggest difference between like my time. I guess the biggest difference between before and after I went pro was probably school. But aside from that, I think I definitely watched a lot more WOTS. I think that's I think solo queue is of course super important. I think playing a lot, at least like for me at least, I know if I don't play a lot, I will just int. And I also am a guy who plays very much on the edge, and I will play to be better than my opponent. So it's like if I'm not warmed up, if I'm not up to date, like then I will just die and I will just look bad, right? So I definitely have to stay in a good shape. I think if I don't play for a week, I will just play bad. Like I will not.
Yep.
Some people actually play good even if they don't play for a week. Like they
Yeah.
can still make it work. But that's just not really for me. I think that's
Same, bro.
of course.
I never know how people did it. Like I remember I played with Quas, and this guy would not play the game for 2 weeks, and then like his accounts were the most insane I've ever seen. He'd be like rank 1, rank 2, and he would have like 100 wins and 30 losses. It's like how the fuck, like how could you play like this? Like he had so much natural talent when it came to playing the game. No, he could not play for insane amounts of time, and even during the season he would play like 2 solo queue games a day. He'd do scrims, like 2 solo queue games, win them both, high challenger, and then just like go do something else. It was like insane to watch how this guy played. But I feel similarly to you. Like if I'm not playing consistently, I'm gonna be fucking terrible. Like I just went to Europe for like 12 days. I swear my skill level dropped by like 500 600 LP in like 12 days. Like I have to start spamming games again to get back up. So I've never understood how people do it either. It just seems impossible to me.
For sure, yeah. So I think that's like that's always a bit of a question mark for me. And then I think like on G2 specifically, I think we had a very scheduled day, I guess. I think compared to most teams, at least in Europe. So most of our days, honestly, just like scheduled out. I think we, at least for last year, I'm not sure if it will be exactly the same next year because I think there'll be a different scrim block system at least. But I think how it worked out was basically that from like 10:50 until about 10:50 a.m. to 9 p.m. we basically had scheduled stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like most of the day is already taken care of. That's to say, right? And I think the rest of the day is just solo queue, VODs, and sometimes we would also do stuff as a team, right? Like some team bonding. Sometimes we would do team dinner, like stuff like that, right? And I think the balance in that is a little bit. It's not like I have a scheduled balance in that. I think a lot of it depends a lot. Basically, especially if there's a new champion I need to learn, then of course I'm gonna watch a lot more VODs of that champion. But also I need to practice the mechanics on that champion. If there's certain concepts we're trying to figure out, or like maybe I will look for more examples of that, or we will be more conscious of that. And at the same time, for example, if we're in a little bit worse of like a team morale, if we had like some very tough scrims and it's been like some tough days, we will usually do a lot more like team stuff, like just to bounce back and I
Charades
guess
until
get
6 a.m. Stuff like that.
charades until 6 a.m. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I wanted to ask because I'm sure I'm curious. The world's gonna be curious about this too. It's like a lot of changes are coming to G2, of course. It's like Mickey out and Yak out. You guys worked together for two years straight, right? And you've worked with Mickey for a very long time. Duffman also out. I don't want to ask you too much about the particulars, right? Because it's a very hard topic to talk about. But the way I would frame my final question is, what are you hoping that this, like, what are you hoping will be different in this coming year? Now you have working with Skymon and Labrov. I'm sure the dynamic is very fresh and a lot of things are new. But what are you hoping at the end of the year would have been different with these changes in mind, and of course with the experience that everyone that has stayed on G2 carries over now into the next year?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say in the sense that like I think already last year like we had like I felt like I had everything from like my team and my teammates, that I had every tool to succeed, but we just didn't, right? We fell short. So it's like when I'm looking at like what has to be different, it's less about Miki and Yai compared to like Skew and Labrov, but more about like about what I have to do different. Because I think if I had done certain things differently. If I had been, as I said earlier, sharper about like some of the stuff we already talked about, like the jungle timings. If I just had a better, like, maybe it felt weird for me to think about the lane swap. But if I had just watched, like, the thing is, I actually watched a lot of the TL lane swaps.
Mhm.
So when we were failing them, like when we were dying to like some of their cheeses, I was like, but they did this on stage already. Like, it felt weird to me. But if I had just actually like, done like a presentation, I could literally just have done a presentation, showed what like cheeses TL like to do in the lane swap, what we need to be mindful of. Of course, it's not going to cover everything, but it could have given us such a head start, and we could have had like 2-3 days of better scrim practice. So it's like it could have made a huge difference. And the same goes for like finding out the timings there. The same goes for stuff like with the like the Vi going to the Baron, or I think the bot siege in particular was quite bad, because it's something that we had been working on, and it's like all these things were things that I could have done differently, and I should have. And if I had, we would just be better. It's like, would we have won Worlds? I don't know, right? I can never say, but we definitely felt like we had the opportunity to. So I'm honestly just more sad about that, and I am definitely sad that I'm actually like kind of sad, and but also just frustrated that ends up like meaning Mickey and Yag is gone. But at the same time, I think that everything that I have seen from both Schumann and Lebrov right now has been very, very good. I definitely have a very good read on them. I think they are super hungry to come in and work, and I think they are super like they really love grinding. And I am sure that we're going to be very good next year if they keep it up, right. I we'll see, right, how everything goes out. But I think that's for me, the biggest thing is of course I need to adapt to new teammates, and we need to get on the same page. But for me, it's also just about really doing the extra step, like doing that. Like, there was no, like, it feels so stupid in hindsight, and I feel so silly, like especially with the lane swap thing, but also with the other things. It's like it feels so obvious in hindsight, and it's like if I just had like that little bit extra mental clarity, I could have really made the difference. So I think that's just my biggest on to-do list. Make sure I just don't lose more teammates, I guess, is the thing, right? Make sure that we actually make this year count. And of course, if I can get revenge on T1 BLG on the way, it would be great. Maybe we can make T1 make some changes.
Yeah. Maybe you can retire Faker. You'll be the one that finally does it, and then you'll be the Superman of League. That'll be the
now
the goal.
sounding more like a villain actor than Superman
actually,
actor.
you'll be like the Joker. Take out the whole T1 team. I'm here for it.
Bro, I love that our EU GOAT, that's like the conclusion after this year, is I need to do more. Like, that is the epitome of the aura that you have, Caps. That's the bit of
responsibility. The responsibility of being the best. Couple things. First would be, how is your value of solo queue when it comes to like picking up new players? Because I've noticed that, like, when G2 picks up new players, you guys always played a lot of solo queue. You guys always were at the top. Was that a big part of it? Because like Skumond is super insane in solo queue. Everyone always raves about him. He's always top 5, etc. Lebrov is also like just a solo queue, just demon, always at the top of the ladder as well. Is that something that you really like respect and honor, or do you not really care too much about like rank when it comes to solo queue?
I mean, I don't know if I'm not sure if I care that much about rank. I think I do care about like the games I play with the players, I guess. Like, like if I have a good read on someone, then obviously I will have that opinion, right? Like that's the thing. And also for a lot of the like, I mean, I guess both for Skumon and for like for Yike, when we picked up Yike, we had actually scrimmed a lot with them before, so we had also like played scrim against them. I think that also matters. But definitely, I think I think they're stage games. There's our scrim games against them. Also, my solo queue like experience with them for sure matters. So if you want to be on G2,
don't in-cap. You better fucking perform in his games. Or you're not gonna be in G2.
Yeah, like I remember there was one particular game with Yike where I was playing. This is 2022, and I was playing Shaco mid in solo queue, and I didn't have a lot of wins with Shaco, but this one game I won, and Yike kind of won with 9th, and he did like it's less about like the result, right, of him just 1v9ing, because at the end of the day every jungler is going to have some games where they pop off, but it's also about their like actual actions. Like if I see something, like sometimes I will see someone do a specific play, right? Maybe it's like very good mechanically, or maybe it's very smart, or maybe it's something I didn't think about, and I'll be like, I will hover the name, I'll be like, oh, this guy is pretty good like that, right? And of course, both Yike and Skumon had a lot of that. And I guess, I mean, even Labro, right? But Labro was a little bit different because he actually was an LC, so we played a lot more against him, both in scrims and on stage. So I have a better idea of him, right? But and then the other thing is also just like the mindset, right? Because again, is Skumon like the best jungle in the world right now? No, but I don't think any of us are. Like our players are right now, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, it'd be weird if any of you guys were the best jungler in the world, I would say, you know.
You never know, right? You never know.
Yeah.
My jungle is quite strong.
Oh.
Okay. All right. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, it's like mid laners are kind of master race in this game. Like mid laners, when they role swap, like I have the most confidence out of anyone when a mid laner is autofilled on my team. I'll say that.
I mean, actually, I only play Kindred and I just invade. I can't say. I was about to say my strats because I can't leak it out because then people will know. But I have some quite good cheeses on my Kindred jungle. And I remember especially some of the world's junglers beating them. It always feels so good when they just get cheesed and they're for sure like so mad that I'm invading them.
I'm just trying to like think about what this means because I get cheesed a lot in solo queue myself, and like one of like the most brutal cheeses is when people like hop the wall, they Q start Kindred, they hop the wall and they hide in the bush behind your red, and then level 1 when you're doing the red, they just like smite it from you.
Okay,
and just level 2.
that's basically one of my cheeses. Yeah, like that's the one I like doing the most. That's the one I like doing the most.
Okay, so that's the one. Oh, you fucker. Damn. Like,
but yeah, I mean that's also like, but the thing is sometimes it can be difficult. I think especially I hate doing it when you're red side, because bot side they always cover so much.
Yeah.
So then there's some alternative cheeses, but I mean I guess aside from that, I don't think like we're of course at the top level right now, but it's really about like how much are we gonna grind it out, how much are we gonna like make each other's plays works. Like are we gonna like innovate, are we gonna listen to each other? And I think from everything I've seen from both Skumon and Labrov so far, I think they're gonna fit in very well. And I am hoping that they will get to shine as much as they for sure can. So
yeah. So the final thing for me would be pertaining to the interview that you did with Kajol right after you ended up losing to BLG 1-2. You did an interview, and afterwards you were like, you said it was like kind of confusing how you felt, because you're like, I just feel like we should play more. Like I feel like we're like, it doesn't even feel like we're really out yet. And I wanted to know, like, after that, how did you like progress through that? Like when did you start like touching League again? Like what were those weeks or moments after losing at Worlds? Like what did you end up doing with your time, or like how did you progress and reorient yourself towards the new season?
Yeah, I mean, I think this offseason has definitely been very weird. I think that there was, yeah, I mean, there was some stuff I had to do, like some personal stuff. There was, of course, like these changes that were happening, and then we also had to, like, I mean, we had to figure out what the future looks like, right? Because it always feels, I mean, not always actually. Like, there's been some worlds where I really feel like, I guess you would say, burned out, and when you lose, you're like, I'm not happy that I lost, but I'm like, I feel like I gave it my all in a way. Yeah, it's like I just feel like I'm out of gas, you know. But some worlds it's completely opposite, and I think that one feels way worse, where it's like you still feel like you have more gas, you still feel like you have way more to prove. You're still thinking like, wait, what if I did this differently, if I and you're kind of like still thinking about what you want to do, you know, the next game. Like I'm still in that mindset, and then it's just like I just have to keep telling myself like, but there is no other game. Like it's gone, it's done. Sure, I can of course still think about what I will do differently next year, but next year is so far away, and it becomes way more like, it becomes less specific, right? Because when I'm in this tournament, it's about like, oh, what champion do I want to pick? How do I want to execute it? What is my opponent's going to pick? How do I make a good draft case? And when it becomes like off season and things about next season, it becomes way more about like, how will the structure look like, right? Like what is my, like, how do I like start to think more about like what kind of schedule do I want to have? Is there things that I liked from this year, things that I didn't like? How do I improve it, right? How do I get this extra things out of my performance? So I think that's definitely been a bit of this offseason. I think we were able to scrim a bit against T1 to help them in the final, and then Labrov and Skumon came to Berlin, and I was in Berlin as well. I think both BB and Hans went to Korea, so they were playing Korea in bootcamp. We were doing more bootcamp like in Europe, and I of course got to meet them, talk with them a bit, get to know them. We always do this like bootcamp as well at the start of the year, kind of to get to know each other as well. So we have a bit of a foundation to build on, and I think a lot of the like the off season, I guess, we use on just like getting to know each other, getting to know how each other likes to play the game, kind of make it so that when the season starts, we can really just focus on the game a lot and focus on our thoughts there. Because the off season, I mean, it is a bit of chaos, right? Like things will change. Like usually the the new season always brings a bunch of stuff, different stuff. So making sure that we are focusing more on the broader picture is important, I think.
Yeah, Yamato's got a fourth final question.
This is my fourth final question. It's a big topic of conversation is like Whipple kind of opened the Pandora's box after he won the LCS in terms of kind of like the overall effort and I think the overall vision for things. It's like there are very few players that have, let's say, the courage and the effort to back it up the way you do, to be able to dream of potentially winning, of course, the World Championship, no matter how distant or how difficult it looks. Time and time again, you go back at it. If there was one attribute that you wish that all 50 players in the LEC would share in regards to you, of course, what would be that one attribute you would wish that every player would carry? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just thinking like it's hard to say one, right? I think I think if I will say two, just to cheat it out a bit.
Okay.
I think for sure the like grinding the game, right? I think is very important. Like really putting in the amount of games, and with grinding I mean both like playing games like solo queue, playing scrims, like watching VODs as well. Just like getting an idea of like what to do, not just kind of like YOLO it, not just kind of just hope that things work out. Like stop hoping, like just actually figure out what to do in the game, figure out what you want to do in the game. Just don't rely on what you've learned in the past. Like really create something new. And then the second thing for me is having the confidence to actually back it up, because we also have players that of course put in all this work, but then they are just scared of doing it on stage. Maybe they're scared of playing a specific champion. Maybe they're scared of doing a specific play, or maybe it just feels it snowballs, right? Because then, this player is scared of playing super aggressive, but then there's like less pressure from that side. So then suddenly it feels scary from the other side to play, and then it bounces off each other, and suddenly everyone is just sitting at that turret, or they're just not pushing forward. You're not really doing anything. So I definitely think confidence and the effort to back up the confidence, I think, are the two things I would love to see.
Yeah. I think the open-mindedness is really impressive for a player that's been playing as long as you have, because I feel like that's the hardest thing to maintain when you're playing so long, because you've seen so many different iterations of meta and so many different iterations of like play style and comps and how games play out, that it's hard not to get jaded and still be able to like be as open to new information as you are. And I feel like that's probably the reason why you're still on top in Europe after so many years, is that you're always trying to find like the best way to win. You have that hunger to always be the best. So yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
I appreciate talking to you. I'm like inspired to play solo queue after talking to you. Like I want to do a challenger grind or something, like I feel like
Thank you.
I feel hyped up. But yeah, I mean,
can I just add as well, actually, now that you said this?
Sure.
Because I would also say I do feel sometimes I feel like a boomer when I hear some new.
No, I don't want to hear it from you, man. I don't want to hear you feel like a boomer, bro. Like,
No, but I feel like we live in a bit of a bubble, like in terms of like the team I'm in. Like, I'm always talking about the team, and we are trying to become as good as possible. But everyone else is also trying to do it themselves, right? And sometimes I hear like ERL players talk, or I hear like solo queue players talk. I hear some streams, and I'm like, what are they even saying? Like, what do these like terms even mean? Then when they talk about League, because it's like they have these like, now it's like sumer like words about the game, right? And that's just how like League improves, right? And words improve. But it's just fun when I'm like, wait, I don't know what that means. I feel like I should know what someone is saying means, right? When I play League every day, but yeah.
No, I've been caught off guard by so many different League terms. Like just hearing things like, I don't know. Like I remember the first like when I remember first starting, the one that everyone was saying was like gibbed. Like it was like I insta gibbed him. Like I can gib this guy. Like which is just like one shot. And like I'd never heard that before. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what are we saying? Like you can gib him? Like, is this fucking English? Like, what does this even come from? So like I still remember like hearing terms like that even from like 14, 15 years ago. So I've been through the ring. I always feel like that, to be honest. Like I had such a boomer moment recently. I was chilling, like I was about to go to sleep. I was scrolling Twitter and I remember just asking my girlfriend, I was like, what is a skibbity toilet? And then she just started laughing like hysterically. She just started like she's like, what are you like why that was so random? Like what did you like what did you say? I still don't know what it is, by the way. I think somebody tried to explain it to me. I have no idea. Do either of you know? Because I still don't know. Maybe the
I
chat,
still
maybe
don't know, bro.
okay,
Yeah, I actually know what it is. I think like we
sure,
had
perfect.
like
Thank you.
oh I think I'm okay. I'm not I don't remember it completely entirely, but I think it's like a toilet with like a head on it from like
Okay.
from something, and then it was like a TV show about it or something. I don't know, but basically
Oh,
we had someone did like the longest like it was a full zoomer sentence. We had this like everyone was doing this thing where it was just like the most zoomer sentence we could have, and it was like
brain
all
rot.
these words. I mean, it was just like a whole Ohio shake. Something I don't know. It was like a very
Okay.
long sentence, and and everyone would just say it, and everyone would just laugh because like no one knew what was going on in this toilet. And for sure, the skibidi toilet was like the weirdest thing where, yeah, we didn't really know what's going on.
God damn, that's got to be the highlight of the Sackdown episode. Caps teaches boomers what a skibbity toilet is. Perfect. Thank you, Caps. But yeah, I mean that's another long episode. Really appreciate you being here. You know, it's always nice after a couple years to interview you and just be able to talk to you about you know your progress and all the different things that you're thinking about. And it's been really interesting for me to see like mindset shifts over the years. So yeah, it's crazy to see how far you've come, how much you've won recently, and I'm excited for G2 next year, man. I hope everything goes well. But yeah,
Thank you for
that's gonna
having
be
me.
Same.
yeah, dude, for sure. And yeah, anytime. And for those of you that are still watching, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Last Free Nation, and we'll have more of these Sackdown episodes coming to you.